What is up everyone, Xeno What If here. For those that are new to the channel itself, subscribe and leave a comment down below for any new ideas for new videos. Here to bring in the movie of What If Naofumi was Isekai into Genshin Impact. Link down the description of the fanfiction of this, What If. Listen to here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. In this crossover, What If Naofumi gets Isekai into the world of Genshin Impact. Chapter number 1, Into Another World. Naofumi Iwatani waking up from a strange dream he had, but you didn't know what the dream was. Naofumi, to himself, what a hell of a dream I had. Naofumi got up from his bed, started changing and brushing his teeth, decided to go to the library. At the library, Naofumi was searching for some kind of novel book until when it by accidentally hit him on the head. Naofumi, ow, what the hell? Naofumi looked down, see two different kinds of books with two different kinds of covers. One was about the 4 legendary cardinal weapons and one was about the Tale of Tavish. Naofumi, to himself, Tales of Tavit. Sounds like something from a fantasy novel or something. Naofumi opened up the book of the Tales of Tavit only to receive a bright light of an emerald green glow. Naofumi, to himself, what the hell is this? As the bright light engulfed Naofumi, disappearing him over the book to fall in the ground. Naofumi screaming for his life. See, now he was falling, he could see many landscapes, some that aren't familiar, that he was actually transported or teleported into another world. You can see the ocean that was near the beach. To himself, you realize that he will be able to survive the crash by hitting the water. With a loud splash, Naofumi in the water. He was able to take on swimming classes and swim directly to the shore. As he reached ashore, he was able to cough out water, even the fish that conveniently came out of his mouth. Naofumi, okay, that was one hell of a way to actually get transported into another world. Naofumi was able to get on his 2 feet and looked around the place, seeing that he was a bit cold. He decided to make a campfire for the time being using rocks and sticks, and was able to make a perfect campfire to warm himself from the cold water. Naofumi, the book I read took me into another world. This is crazy or amazing, or probably both. Naofumi couldn't help but smile and looked up at the sky, seeing the night stars twinkle alongside the night sky. Naofumi, does this way more better than actually the video game, but what exactly am I supposed to do and what is my purpose? Naofumi decided to take a nap for the time being and put out the fire as the next day came in and morning. Naofumi did feel a bit hungry, didn't realize that he forgot to pack up something to go into another world. Naofumi, damn, I forgot to actually pack myself some food. For some reason I should have actually had food. Probably I could have been killed by a monster or starved to death. Naofumi, to his surprise, he sees a fishing rod that conveniently was placed there. He was never good at fishing, but he had to give it a try to get some fish to eat. Naofumi, well, I guess doing fishing will have to be better than anything besides starving myself to death. Naofumi grabbed the fishing rod and went to the beach side to fish for some fish to eat for some breakfast or lunch, you could say. When the moment he was a little fish, a few fishes like salmon and other types of fish, something heavy pulled on the fishing line. Naofumi, wonder what it could be, must be a pretty good fish I can actually have for once. As Naofumi pulled harder to get the fish, when a moment something did end up in the other side of the hook of the fishing line. To his complete shock and surprise, to see a kid somewhere around the age of 5 or 6 had white hair and strange clothing, including a halo on top of her head. He decided to swing the fishing rod, which throwed the female kid directly on land. Naofumi, what the hell, what is a kid like her doing in the ocean? Was she trying to commit suicide or something? Paimon, so, what you're trying to say is that you fell here, from another world? Naofumi, I was reading a book and I got transported here to who knows where. Naofumi, yeah, that's what happened. I don't know where I am or why I was brought here, but I'm guessing this is the world from the book I was reading about. Paimon, the Tales of Tavit. That's right, you're from another world, I can sense that much. My name is Paimon, by the way. I'll be your guide and companion in this strange new land. Naofumi, nice to meet you, Paimon. I'm Naofumi Iwatani. So, what's the plan? How are we going to get back home? Paimon, well, Naofumi, I'm afraid there's been a slight misunderstanding. You see, you're not just here for a short visit. The book you read was a wish of the sea god, which means you're now a part of Tavit forever. Naofumi, what? No way. I can't be stuck here forever. I have responsibilities back home. Naofumi was thinking, what exactly does he have left to do back at home? He's just a normal nobody, a boring life of just doing nothing. After all, he was isekai, just like many of the people that were actually teleport in another world in the anime. After all, Staycare can actually make things a lot interesting. Naofumi, I guess you're right, Paimon. I can't change what's happened, so I might as well make the best of it. What do you think my first steps should be in this new world? Paimon. So, Paimon will do her best to be a great guide. We should head off. Let's get going. Naofumi, alright, let's go. I'm ready to see what this world has in store for me. Naofumi, following Paimon, was floating towards somewhere only for her to fly above some hill. Paimon, the path ends here, guess we'll just have to climb. Climbing depletes stamina, and depleted stamina takes time to recover. As Naofumi wasn't good at exercising, but I had to give it a try to climb up to see what was beyond the cliff, which he did. Slowly climbed up the cliff. Paimon. Wow, isn't it beautiful? This is just one of the many regions in Teyvat. Each area has its own unique characteristics and inhabitants. Naofumi, it's incredible. I've never seen anything like it before. But what's our next step? Paimon. Okay, let's take the route we planned. We're off to a statue of the seven. Which of the seven are you looking for exactly? Naofumi, I'm not sure, to be honest. The book I read didn't mention which of the seven I should seek out. I guess we'll have to explore and find out more about my role in this world. Paimon, that's the spirit. The statue of the seven is a good place to start. They can provide guidance and answers to those who seek them. We just need to find the right one. As they continued their journey, Naofumi couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and wonder at the new world around him. Chapter number 2, Gain Power of Anemo. Location: Teyvat, cliffs overlooking the lake. Afternoon. Naofumi and Paimon approached the ledge. The wind picked up, gentle, warm, carrying the scent of flowers and fresh water. Below them, a massive lake sparkled in the afternoon sun. And in the center of the lake, standing on a pedestal of ancient stone, was a statue. Paimon, floating ahead, gasping, oh wow. Naofumi, coming to stand beside her. Okay, that is kind of a nice view. The statue was beautiful, carved from pale stone, weathered by centuries of wind and rain. It depicted a robed figure with wings spread wide, holding an orb in its hands. The orb glowed with a soft, pulsing light. Paimon, gesturing, that's a statue of the seven. She turned to Naofumi. There are a few of these statues scattered across the land. They show the seven's protection over the world. Naofumi, studying the statue, alright. So how do I interact with it? Paimon, floating in a small circle, well, just place your hand on the statue and make a wish. She paused. Paimon's not sure whether the god you're looking for is the Anemo god, but she floated closer. Paimon'll take you to the Anemo god's statue first. And there's a reason why. Naofumi, raising an eyebrow, what reason? Paimon, mysteriously, you'll see. Now come on. She floated toward the water's edge. Naofumi followed. Lake, crossing. Late afternoon. Paimon, floating over the water. As we all know, poetry and language flow like the wind. She turned to Naofumi. Whether the gods actually answer you is a different story. You never know unless you try. So let's hop to it. Naofumi looked at the lake. The statue was maybe 50 meters out, too far to jump, but close enough to swim. Naofumi, sighing, I just dried off. Paimon, cheerful, you can swim right over. Naofumi, rolling up his sleeves, alright. I'm going for it. He waded into the water. It was cold, colder than he expected, but not unbearable. He struck out toward the statue, his strokes steady, his eyes fixed on the glowing orb. The water swirled around him. The wind picked up, and when he reached the statue, he placed his hand on the cool marble and closed his eyes. Naofumi, whispering, I wish to understand. I wish to find my purpose. I wish to protect this world, if I can. The orb flared, the wind howled, and a voice, soft, melodic, ancient, filled his mind. Anemo Archon, Venti, echoing, Naofumi Iwatani. You have shown courage in seeking out the power of the wind. The Anemo Archon has taken notice of your determination. Naofumi's eyes snapped open. The water around him was swirling, forming a vortex, lifting him up, holding him suspended in the air. Anemo Archon Venti. To truly understand your connection to the element of wind, you must venture forth. Let the winds guide you. Let the winds shape you. And when you are ready, you will find me. The wind surged. Naofumi was lifted off the water, carried through the air, and deposited gently on the shore. He landed on his feet, barely, and stumbled forward, gasping. Paimon, floating beside him, excited. Seems all you had to do was just touch the statue, and you got the power of Anemo. She crossed her arms, pouting. As much as they may want it, people in this world can never get a hold of powers as easily as you. Naofumi, staring at his hands. I can control the wind now. He raised his hand. A small cyclone formed in his palm, spinning, dancing, alive. Naofumi, quiet. Wow. I can actually control the wind. He looked at Paimon. This changes everything. Paimon, grinning. See. Paimon told you. The elements in this world really do respond to your wishes. She floated closer. Pretty amazing, huh? Naofumi looked down at his weapons, the dull blade at his hip, the waster greatsword on his back. They shimmered faintly, edged with the pale green glow of Anemo energy. Naofumi, thoughtful. Can I use this to fight even better? Like, really master it? Paimon, nodding. Absolutely. But mastering the wind isn't just about blowing stuff away. She held up a finger. Venti, the Anemo Archon, is a tricky god. You'll need to practice a lot and maybe find someone who can teach you more. Naofumi sheathed his blade. Naofumi, looking toward the forest. Then let's get started. Forest, first encounter. Late afternoon. They walked through the tall grass, following a path that wound between ancient trees. The air was fresh here, cleaner than any city air Naofumi had ever breathed. Paimon, floating ahead. The kingdom of Mondstadt is this way. She pointed. It's the city of freedom, ruled by the Anemo Archon. Well, technically. The Knights of Favonius do most of the actual ruling. Naofumi, following. Knights. Paimon, nodding. Yep. They're like, protectors. Warriors who keep the city safe from monsters and bad guys. She paused. Paimon thinks you'd fit right in. Naofumi was about to respond when he saw them. Ahead, on the path, were 4 creatures. They were round, bouncy, made of what looked like molten rock and fire. Their faces were simple, 2 glowing eyes and a wide, jagged grin. Paimon, whispering. Pyro slimes. Naofumi, slowly drawing his dull blade. They don't look friendly. Paimon, nodding. They're not. She floated behind him. But this is a good chance to test your Anemo powers. The pyro slimes noticed them. Their eyes flared, their grins widened, and they charged. Naofumi, raising his blade. Here we go. Battle. Naofumi vs. Pyro Slimes. The first slime leapt at him, a ball of fire and fury. Naofumi sidestepped, swinging his dull blade. The blade passed through the slime, scattering embers, but the creature reformed almost instantly. Paimon, shouting. Normal weapons don't work well on slimes. Use your Anemo powers. Naofumi, nodding. Right. He focused. The wind answered. A blast of Anemo energy erupted from his hand, hitting the slime square in its core. The creature shrieked, a high-pitched, bubbling sound, and exploded into ash. Naofumi, staring. That worked. 2 more slimes charged. Naofumi raised his hand again, but this time, he tried something different. He pushed the wind down, into the ground, and launched himself into the air. He landed behind the slimes, spun, and struck. His dull blade sang, light, swift, edged with Anemo energy. The blade passed through both slimes, scattering their flames, and they crumbled to ash. Paimon, cheering. 2 at once. Nice. The 4th slime hesitated. Its eyes flickered. Its grin faltered. Naofumi, advancing slowly. You should run. The slime ran. Naofumi watched it go, his blade lowered, his breathing steady. Paimon, floating beside him. You did it, Naofumi. She beamed. You're a natural at this. The wind seems to respond to your will, and your weapons are more than capable of dealing with these creatures. Naofumi, sheathing his blade. I never thought I'd be able to do something like this. He looked at his hands. They were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. Naofumi, quiet. I can actually do this. I can actually fight. Paimon, soft. Yeah. You can. Forest, after the battle. Late afternoon. They continued walking, following the path toward Mondstadt. Paimon. Floating beside him, these are the anemo powers you got from the statue of the seven. She crossed her arms, pouting, ah. Paimon's so jealous. Why doesn't Paimon get cool fighting powers? Naofumi. Grinning slightly, maybe because you're too small. Paimon. Indignant, Paimon is not small. Paimon is, travel size. Naofumi laughed, a real laugh, the first since he'd arrived in this world. Naofumi. Looking at his dull blade, can I really master this? The wind, I mean. Can I get strong enough to protect myself? To protect others? Paimon. Nodding, absolutely. But mastering the wind isn't just about blowing stuff away. She floated in front of him. Venti, the anemo archon, is a tricky god. You'll need to practice a lot and maybe find someone who can teach you more. Naofumi. Determined, then I'll practice. Every day. Every chance I get. Paimon. Smiling, that's the spirit. Now come on, Mondstadt is this way. She floated ahead, toward the forest's edge. Naofumi followed. Forest. Looking out. Late afternoon. They emerged from the trees onto a hillside overlooking a vast valley. In the distance, a city rose from the water, towers and bridges and windmills, all gleaming in the golden light. Banners flew from its highest spires, swaying in the breeze. Paimon. Pointing, there it is. Mondstadt. The city of freedom. Naofumi. Staring. It's beautiful. Paimon. Proud, yep. And soon, it'll be your home. Naofumi looked at her. Naofumi. Quiet, my home. Paimon. Soft, if you want it to be. Naofumi turned back to the city. The wind blew, warm, gentle, carrying the scent of dandelions and hope. Naofumi. To himself. Yeah, I think I do. He stepped forward, toward the city, toward whatever awaited him. Paimon floated beside him, smiling. Paimon. Cheerful, let's go, Naofumi. Adventure awaits. Naofumi. Grinning, yeah. It does. They walked down the hillside together, toward Mondstadt, toward the future. Chapter number 3, Forest Breeze. When a dragon flies above. Paimon. Wow, what is that? There's something huge, in the sky. Naofumi. Actually that would be a dragon. Paimon. It's headed towards the heart of the forest. We must proceed with caution. Naofumi. In the heart of the forest, you encounter a mysterious person talking to a dragon. But the interruption sends them both fleeing in haste. Paimon. Huh, look at that. The traveler sees a boy talking to a dragon. ? Don't be afraid. It's all right now, I'm back. Paimon. Is he talking to a dragon? Naofumi. That is rather. Only for Naofumi body begin to glow ominously. Paimon. Oh. Who's there? The dragon senses the Naofumi's presence and roars at the boy. The boy vanishes by using his anemo powers and the dragon flies away. Paimon. That was close. Paimon almost got blown away. Luckily Paimon managed to grab hold of your hair. Thanks. Naofumi. Good thing the dragon didn't notice us. Paimon. Just what was that? Paimon thought we were gonna get eaten. It definitely has something to do with that weirdo who was talking to the dragon. Naofumi. I can't believe dragons exist in this world. Paimon. Yeah, Paimon gets why you're worried. Naofumi. Is talking to dragons normal? Paimon. Of course not. Oh, what's that? As both of them looked directly towards the place where the boy and the dragon was, as a red gemstone glowed red. Paimon. There's some kind of shiny red thingy on the big rock over there. When Naofumi interacts with the crimson crystal. Paimon. Paimon's never seen a stone like this before, so Paimon can't tell what it is. All Paimon knows is that it's dangerous. Best we put it away for now. Okay, we've got it. Now let's get out of here. As Naofumi obtained crimson crystal. Naofumi. Okay, we should probably get moving. That dragon could come back, and we don't want to stick around and find ourselves in more trouble. Paimon. Captain. Let's skedaddle. Hey, you. Stop right there. As the traveler and Paimon walk through the forest, a mysterious girl in red jumps and landed in front of their path. May the anemo god protect you, stranger. I am Amber, outrider for the Knights of Favonius. As Amber look at both Naofumi and Paimon. Amber. You don't look like citizens of Mondstadt. Explain yourselves. Paimon. we're not looking for trouble. Amber, that's what all the troublemakers say. Naofumi, hello, I'm Naofumi Iwatani. Amber, doesn't sound like a local name to me. Amber, and this, mascot, what's the deal with it? Naofumi, we're friends. Paimon, we've only been traveling partners for 2 minutes, but we've already become the very best of friends. Amber, so to sum it up, you're traveling partners, right? Well look, there's been a large dragon sighted around Mondstadt recently. Best you get inside the city as soon as possible. It's not far from here, I'll escort you there. Paimon, oh, aren't you out here for some other reason? Amber, I am. But not to worry, I can keep you both safe while doing that too. Besides, I'm still not sure if I can trust you two just yet. Naofumi, why so suspicious? Amber, oh, I'm sorry. Probably not something I should say as a knight. Amber, I give you my apologies, strange yet, respectable travelers. Paimon, that sounded so fake. Amber, do you have something against the type of language usage prescribed by the Knights of Favonius handbook? As Naofumi goes to the designated location. Amber, so, suspicious travelers, what are you doing in Mondstadt? Naofumi, well, I'm actually trying to find Windfall Island to meet with the Anemo Archon, Venti. I was given a hint that it's in Mondstadt. Amber, so you're after the Anemo powers too. Many come seeking them, but few find what they're looking for. Paimon, we're not just seeking powers, we're friends too. Amber, friends, huh? Well, I hope you find what you're looking for, and that you keep yourselves out of trouble while you're at it. Naofumi, we'll do our best. Chapter number 4, the city known as Mondstadt. Location, Mondstadt, city gates. Late afternoon. The gates of Mondstadt were tall, arched, wrought iron, with the symbol of the Anemo Archon carved into the keystone. Guards in silver armor stood on either side, their halberds gleaming in the afternoon sun. Amber walked ahead, her ponytail swaying, her boots clicking on the cobblestones. Naofumi followed, Paimon floating beside him, staring up at the walls with wide eyes. Amber, turning, arms spread wide, let me officially introduce the city of wind, dandelions, and freedom. She bowed dramatically, travelers under the protection of the Knights of Favonius. Welcome to Mondstadt. Paimon, floating in a circle, finally. No more having to camp outdoors. She looked around, her expression falling, but the city folk don't look too cheery. Amber's smile faded. Amber, quiet, everyone's been put out of place by Stormterror recently. She looked up at the sky, but everything will turn out fine as long as Jean's with us. Naofumi, curious Jean. Amber, straightening, proud, acting Grand Master of the Knights of Favonius, Jean, Defender of Mondstadt. She placed a hand on her chest. With Jean on our side, surely even the vicious Stormterror will be no match for us. Naofumi, hopeful, I hope she knows something about the god of Anemo. Amber, tilting her head, is that why you're here? To find Venti. Naofumi, nodding, among other things. Amber studied him for a moment. Amber, finally, before I take you guys to the Knights of Favonius headquarters, she reached into her pack, I have a present for you, Naofumi. She pulled out a folded bundle of fabric, green and white, with gold trim and leather straps. Amber, holding it out, it's a reward for helping me clear out that Hilichurl camp earlier. Paimon, floating closer, indignant, hey. Why doesn't Paimon get a reward? Amber, smiling apologetically, because this reward is useless to you, Paimon. She tucked the bundle under her arm, but I'll treat you to a traditional Mondstadt delicacy, sticky honey roast. Paimon, eyes sparkling, sticky honey roast. Amber, gesturing for them to follow, come with me. We'll head to the city's, high ground. Mondstadt, Fountain Plaza. Late afternoon. They walked through the city's main square. The fountain in the center was dry, its water shut off, its edges chipped and cracked. The usual crowds were nowhere to be seen. A few merchants packed up their stalls. A mother hurried her children inside. The only sounds were the wind and the distant clatter of a tavern sign swinging in the breeze. Amber, looking around sadly, this used to be a bustling street. She shook her head, but with so many Stormterror attacks recently, the usual crowds are nowhere to be seen. She pointed toward a building near the city wall, warm light spilling from its windows, laughter echoing from within. Amber, except for the local tavern over there. She smiled slightly. They haven't been affected. If anything, their business is better than ever. Paimon, floating ahead. People always drink more when they're scared. Amber, nodding. Unfortunately, that's true. They continued walking. Mondstadt, high ground. Afternoon. Amber led them up a winding staircase, past flower boxes and laundry lines, to a platform overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. Mondstadt sprawled below them, its blue-tiled roofs and white stone walls, its windmills turning slowly in the breeze, its cathedral spires reaching toward the clouds. Beyond the walls, the forest stretched to the horizon, and in the distance, the snow-capped peak of Dragonspine glowed pink in the setting sun. Amber, turning to face them, so. The present I want to give you is, she held up the bundle, a wind glider. She unfolded it. The glider was beautiful, green and white, with gold trim and leather straps, the symbol of the Anemo Archon embroidered on its wings. Amber, excited. Outriders use them to ride the wind, and the people of Mondstadt love using them too. She gestured to the platform edge. I brought you here to give it to you so you can experience it right away. Paimon, floating around the glider. Oh, you're really excited about these wind gliders, huh? Amber, beaming. Well, that's because the wind is the heart and soul of Mondstadt. She strapped the glider to Naofumi's back. Alrighty then, enough talk. Let's give it a whirl. She stepped back, hands on her hips. Amber, it's easy to use, but you still need to pay attention to my instructions. Naofumi looked down at the glider, at its sleek design, its vibrant colors, its promise of freedom. Naofumi, quiet. It's beautiful. Amber, grinning. Isn't it? Now, first, climb to that high cliff over there. She pointed to a rocky outcropping overlooking the city. Don't worry, it's a safe spot. Just remember to spread your arms wide when you jump. Naofumi walked to the cliff. Paimon floated beside him, wringing her hands. Paimon, nervous? Are you sure you'll be alright? What if you fall? Naofumi, chuckling softly. I've faced worse in my world. He looked at her, reassuring. I'll be fine. He climbed to the cliff's edge, turned to look at Amber, and took a breath. Then he jumped. The flight. The wind caught him. It lifted him up, cradled him, carried him over the city like a leaf on a stream. The glider spread wide, green and white against the blue sky, and Naofumi felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Free. Amber, shouting from below. That's it. Just feel the wind. She waved her arms. You can steer it a bit by adjusting your weight. Naofumi leaned left. The glider turned left. He leaned right. It turned right. He laughed, a real laugh, loud and unguarded, and soared over the rooftops of Mondstadt. Below him, the city glowed in the golden light of the setting sun. The cathedral bells rang, the windmills turned, and for a moment, Naofumi forgot about dragons and archons and the weight of being a hero. He was just a boy. Flying. Free. Naofumi, to himself. This is incredible. Paimon, flying beside him, struggling to keep up. Paimon can't believe you're doing this without her. Wait for Paimon. Naofumi, grinning. Catch up. Then. He dove, pulling the glider into a steep descent, and landed gracefully on the platform where Amber stood. Amber, applauding. You did it. She beamed. That was amazing. I knew you had the spirit of a true adventurer in you. Paimon, finally catching up, panting. That was awesome. She floated in front of Naofumi. Paimon can't wait to try it too. She paused. But, what's the next step after this? Amber strapped her own glider to her back. Amber, still beaming. Now that you have your wind glider, it's time to meet Jean. She started walking. If there's anyone who can give you information about the god of Anemo, it's her. She glanced back. Plus, I think she'll want to hear about your skills, especially since we might need all the help we can get with Stormterror on the loose. Naofumi felt a renewed determination settle in his chest. Naofumi, nodding. Lead the way, Amber. I have questions for Jean. Amber, saluting. Yes, sir. She led them down the staircase, toward the heart of the city. Paimon floated beside Naofumi, her expression thoughtful. Paimon, quiet. You smiled. Really smiled. Paimon hasn't seen that since you got here. Naofumi, surprised. I didn't notice. Paimon, soft. That's okay. That's why Paimon is here. To notice things. Naofumi looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. Naofumi, quiet. Thanks, Paimon. Paimon, grinning, that's what friends are for. They walked into the city, toward the Knights of Favonius headquarters, toward whatever awaited them. Mondstadt, streets. Evening. The streets were quieter now, the sun had set, and the lamps were being lit. A few citizens hurried past, pulling their coats tight against the evening chill. Amber, walking ahead, the Knights of Favonius headquarters is in the center of the city. She pointed right next to the cathedral. Naofumi, following, and Jean will be there. Amber, nodding, she's almost always there. She smiled, Jean takes her duties very seriously. Sometimes too seriously. Paimon, floating beside them, what's she like? Amber, thoughtful, she searched for the right word, dedicated. Strong. Kind. She looked at Naofumi, she'll like you, I think. Naofumi, raising an eyebrow, why? Amber, shrugging, you remind me of her. Serious. Responsible. She grinned, a little too serious, actually. Naofumi, deadpan, thanks. Amber, laughing, that wasn't an insult. Paimon, floating ahead, Paimon thinks it was. They walked on, the city lights flickering around them. Mondstadt, Knights of Favonius headquarters. Evening. The headquarters was a grand building, white stone, blue-tiled roof, stained glass windows depicting scenes of heroism and freedom. 2 knights stood guard at the entrance, their armor gleaming in the torchlight. Amber, approaching the guards, Outrider Amber, reporting. I have travelers to see, acting Grand Master Jean. Guard, nodding, stepping aside, she's in her office. Go ahead. Amber, gesturing for Naofumi and Paimon to follow, this way. They walked through the doors, into a grand hallway lined with portraits of past knights. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floor. Paimon, whispering, fancy. Naofumi, whispering back, yeah. Amber stopped in front of a large wooden door. She knocked. Amber, calling, Jean. It's Amber. I have visitors. Jean's voice, from inside, come in. Amber pushed open the door. Jean's office. The office was warm, lit by a fireplace and several oil lamps. Books lined the walls. Maps covered the desk. And standing by the window, looking out at the city, was a woman. She was tall, taller than Naofumi, with blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and sharp blue eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore a white uniform with gold trim, a sword at her hip, and an expression of calm determination. Jean, turning to face them, welcome. She looked at Amber, then at Naofumi, then at Paimon, I am Jean, acting Grand Master of the Knights of Favonius. She stepped forward, Amber tells me you're looking for information about the Anemo Archon. Naofumi, nodding, yes. I was told I need to find Venti. Jean's expression flickered, surprise, maybe, or recognition. Jean, quiet. Venti. She studied him, that name isn't known to many outsiders. How did you come across it? Naofumi, honest, a voice. At the statue of the 7. It told me to seek him out. Jean was silent for a long moment. Jean, finally, I see. She walked to her desk, sat down, and gestured to the chairs across from her, please. Sit. We have much to discuss. Naofumi sat. Paimon floated beside him. Chapter number 5, Knights of Favonius. Location. Mondstadt, Knights of Favonius headquarters, Jean's office. Evening. The fireplace crackled. Naofumi sat in the chair across from Jean's desk, his hands resting on his knees, his posture straight. Paimon floated beside him, her eyes darting between the portraits on the walls, the maps on the desk, the woman in white who studied them both. Jean was quiet for a long moment. Jean, finally, folding her hands on the desk, Amber tells me you helped her clear a Hilichurl camp. She looked at Naofumi, that's no small task for a newcomer. Naofumi, shrugging, the wind helped. Jean, almost smiling, so I've heard. She stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. Jean, quiet, Stormterror has been terrorizing Mondstadt for weeks. We've lost trade routes, supply lines. She turned to face him, people are afraid. Naofumi, leaning forward, what can I do to help? Jean's eyes widened, just a fraction. Jean, surprised, you're not from here. You have no obligation to this city. She studied him, why would you want to help? Naofumi, meeting her eyes, because I can. Jean was silent. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. Jean. Walking back to her desk, we'll speak more in the morning. She sat down. For now, rest. Amber will show you to your quarters. Naofumi. Standing. Thank you. Paimon. Floating toward the door. Come on, Naofumi. Paimon is exhausted. Naofumi followed her out. Location. Mondstadt, Knights of Favonius headquarters, hallway. Evening. Amber waited for them outside the door, leaning against the wall. Amber. Pushing off. Jean seemed to like you. Naofumi. Walking beside her. She seemed tired. Amber. Sighing. She is. She glanced at him. Jean takes everything on herself. Every problem, every crisis, every burden. She looked ahead. She doesn't know how to let others help. Paimon. Floating between them. That sounds familiar. Naofumi. Looking at her. What's that supposed to mean? Paimon. Innocent nothing. Amber laughed, a real laugh, warm and genuine. Amber. Stopping in front of a door. Here. These are your quarters. She opened the door. They're not fancy, but they're safe. Naofumi stepped inside. The room was small, a bed, a desk, a window overlooking the city. Simple, clean, perfect. Naofumi. Turning to Amber. Thank you. Amber. Smiling. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. She closed the door. Paimon. Floating to the bed. Paimon calls the pillow. Naofumi. Sitting on the edge of the bed. You can't call a pillow. Paimon. Already burrowing into it. Too late. Naofumi shook his head. He lay back, stared at the ceiling, and listened to the distant sound of the wind. Location. Mondstadt, Knights of Favonius headquarters, meeting room. Morning. Naofumi woke to sunlight streaming through the window. He dressed quickly, his usual clothes, since he had nothing else, and followed Paimon through the winding halls of the headquarters. Amber met them at the entrance to a large meeting room. Amber. Whispering. Everyone's inside. Just be yourself. Naofumi. Raising an eyebrow. Was I going to be someone else? Amber. Grinning. You never know. She pushed open the door. Meeting room, the gathering. The room was spacious, high ceilings, stained glass windows, a long wooden table in the center. Maps covered the walls. A fire burned in the hearth. And standing around the table were 3 people. Jean stood at the head of the table, her arms crossed, her expression serious. Beside her stood a tall woman with flowing brown hair and a purple witch's hat, her eyes half closed, her smile lazy and knowing. Across from them, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, was a man with short blue hair and an eye patch. His smile was easy. His eyes were sharp. Jean. Gesturing to Naofumi. Ah. You're here. She stepped forward. Mondstadt welcomes you, windborne travelers. Naofumi. Bowing slightly. Thank you for having us. Jean. Gesturing to the woman in the witch's hat. I am Jean, acting Grand Master of the Knights of Favonius. She turned. This is Lisa, our resident librarian. Lisa. Stepping forward, smiling warmly. Oh. She clasped her hands together. Are you sweeties here to help us out? She looked at Naofumi, then at Paimon. Lisa. Tilting her head. You're both so adorable. Paimon. Puffing out her chest. Paimon knows. Lisa. Sighing, her smile fading. Sadly, the timing is regrettable. She walked to the table. Stormterror has caused quite a ruckus in the region since its recent resurgence. She traced her finger along a map. Lisa. Simply put, Mondstadt's elemental sphere and ley lines are now akin to a yarn ball in the paws of a kitten. She looked up. For a mage, it couldn't get much worse. My skin is one elemental particle away from a full-blown breakout. Jean. Nodding. If it weren't for this interference, the Knights of Favonius would have better ways to help you than just putting up missing person posters. She looked at Naofumi. We simply ask that you repose in Mondstadt while we help you seek out your purpose here. Naofumi stepped forward. Naofumi. I really should help as well. Paimon. Floating beside him. Paimon will help too. Naofumi. Turning to Jean. I can't just sit around while people are in danger. Kea. Pushing off the wall. Good. He walked to the table. In that case, we need a plan. Jean nodded. Jean. With Stormterror now directly attacking Mondstadt, we may have an opportunity to cut this problem off at the source. Kea. Raising an eyebrow. Is that so? Lisa. Pointing to locations on the map. I've revealed the sources of Stormterror's power with my detection magic. She looked at the group. They're located in the abandoned Four Winds temples. Jean, continuing, Stormterror's ability to whip up these kinds of storms can be attributed to it drawing power from the temples. Kea, studying the map, interesting. Jean, looking at each of them, our objective is to deal with 3 of the 4 temples. She paused. I trust everyone understands why we are only dealing with 3. Paimon, raising her hand. Paimon doesn't. Naofumi glanced at her. Naofumi, quiet, it must be a local thing. Paimon, whispering, we'll ask later. Jean turned to the group. Jean, voice firm, Knights of Favonius, time is against us. She looked out the window. The storm is rampant. There is no point in maintaining a defensive position. She turned back. Jean, steady, we need to take initiative and act before the situation escalates. Meeting room, after the briefing. The group dispersed. Kea walked over to Naofumi, his eye patch catching the firelight. Kea, studying him, you're not bad with that wind glider. He tilted his head, your gliding style seems familiar. Naofumi, curious, how'd you get your eye patch? Kea blinked. Then he laughed, short, sharp, amused. Kea, grinning, my eye patch. He touched it. Wanna hear my story, He waved a hand. I didn't have time to introduce myself properly. He shrugged. Well, it wasn't on my mind to begin with. He bowed slightly. Kea, theatrical, hey. My apologies. I'm Kea, cavalry captain for the Knights of Favonius. He straightened. We can talk more after we get things sorted. He gestured toward the door. I know a great place more fit for a chat. Naofumi, curious, why is Jean the acting Grand Master? Kea's expression softened. Kea, quiet, the Grand Master is currently off leading an expedition, so the Master, Jean, has stepped in to oversee the knights while he's gone. He looked at Naofumi, hence, you'll hear many refer to her as the acting Grand Master. He leaned against the wall. Kea, when the Grand Master left, he took the vast majority of our knights with him, leaving the acting Grand Master with far more responsibility and stress. He looked toward the window, where Jean stood silhouetted against the light. Come to think of it, it must have been difficult for Jean. Naofumi, nodding, goodbye. Kea, pushing off the wall, see you later, then. Meeting room, Lisa. Lisa glided over to Naofumi, her witch's hat casting her face in shadow. Lisa, smiling, I'm Lisa, the librarian. She tilted her head, do you need anything, cutie? Naofumi, straight to the point, I'd like to know more about monsters. Lisa, nodding, the monsters out in the wild. She gestured vaguely, we've got many resources here in the library. Her smile widened, making good use of elemental advantages is the key to winning any battle. She leaned closer. Lisa, lowering her voice, by the way, would you be interested in having a part-time job here? She waved a hand, we need people for, she paused, she sighed, we just need more people. Naofumi, frowning, how do we fight Stormterror? Lisa's smile faded. Lisa, quiet, a way to fight against Stormterror. She shook her head, I'm sorry, but there's no way to do it alone. She walked to the window. Lisa, judging by the level of its anemo power, it's definitely not an ordinary creature. She turned to face him, I could teach you some elemental basics, so you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. Naofumi, nodding, goodbye. Lisa, waving, heading out. She smiled, see you in a bit. Meeting room, Jean. Jean stood by the window, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Naofumi, approaching, thank you for accepting our invitation. Jean looked at him. Jean, quiet, thank you for accepting our invitation, traveler. Naofumi, direct, how do we fight Stormterror? Jean was silent for a moment. Jean, finally, its change in size and power really is suspicious. She looked out the window, but for the Knights of Favonius, our priority is to deal with the aftermath of this attack. She turned to face him. Jean, voice firm, the Grand Master entrusted the Knights of Favonius to me. Her jaw tightened, I cannot let him or the people of Mondstadt down. She looked at the map, I must get to the bottom of this. Naofumi, changing the subject, or all the knights as strict as Amber. Jean's expression softened. Jean, almost smiling, I heard you and Outrider Amber had a misunderstanding. She shook her head, please forgive her. She was just doing her job. She looked at Naofumi, talk to Amber sometime. I'm sure you'll like how energetic she always is. Naofumi, bowing slightly, goodbye. Jean, nodding, thanks again for your help. Meeting room, Amber. Amber bounced over to Naofumi, her ponytail swinging. Amber, grinning, wanna team up with me? She put her hands on her hips, huh, I should warn you though, I don't slow down for anyone, greenhorn or otherwise. Naofumi, observant, Jean seems pretty reliable. Amber's grin faded. Amber, quiet with Jean by our side, nothing can stand in our way. She looked down, at least, that's what I wanna say. She looked up. Amber, soft, but I can't keep spouting that same old line. She glanced toward Jean, she always dashes headlong into the heat of the battle, and we want her to take better care of herself. She looked at Naofumi. Amber, determined, I really hope that one day I can look Jean in the eye and tell her she doesn't need to worry anymore, because we have her back. Naofumi, nodding, you seem pretty good with a wind glider. Amber's grin returned. Amber, proud, as a novice within the Knights of Favonius, your understanding of the wind is absolutely crucial. She pointed at him, leave the advanced wind glider training to me. Naofumi, bowing slightly, goodbye. Amber, waving, let's all do our best to defeat Stormterror. Location, Mondstadt, streets. Morning. Naofumi walked through the streets of Mondstadt, Paimon floating beside him. The city was waking up, merchants opening their stalls, children running through the square, the smell of fresh bread and coffee drifting from open windows. Paimon, floating ahead, so. She turned to face him, what do you think of the knights? Naofumi, thoughtful, they're trying. He looked up at the cathedral spires but they're overwhelmed. Paimon, nodding, that's why they need us. Naofumi, looking at her. Us. Paimon, puffing out her chest, yeah. Us. She floated in a circle, Paimon and Naofumi, adventuring partners. She stopped, Paimon's decided. Naofumi, raising an eyebrow, decided what? Paimon, grinning, that we're going to help them. She pointed at the sky, we're going to stop Stormterror. She pointed at him, and you're going to find the Anemo Archon. She pointed at herself, and Paimon is going to be there for all of it. Naofumi stared at her. Then, slowly, he smiled. Naofumi, quiet, okay. Paimon, beaming, okay. They walked through the city, toward the gates, toward the temples, toward whatever awaited them. The wind blew, warm, gentle, full of promise. And Naofumi Iwatani, the hero of Teyvat, took his first step into legend. Chapter number 6, The Temples of the Four Winds. Location, Mondstadt, city gates. Morning. The sun was barely over the walls when Naofumi and Paimon met Amber at the city gates. Amber stood with her hands on her hips, her ponytail swaying in the breeze, her wind glider strapped to her back. She looked ready for battle, determined, focused, energized. Amber, grinning, ready to save Mondstadt. Naofumi, adjusting his dull blade, as ready as I'll ever be. Paimon, floating beside him, Paimon is ready too. Even though Paimon doesn't have a weapon. Amber, laughing, your moral support is enough, Paimon. Paimon, puffing out her chest, Paimon's moral support is excellent. They walked through the gates, toward the rolling hills beyond. Location, Temple of the Falcon, exterior. Late morning. The temple rose from the hillside like a sleeping giant, weathered stone, crumbling pillars, moss crawling up its walls. It had been abandoned for years, left to the wind and the rain and the creatures that now called it home. Amber, stopping at the entrance, this is it. She looked up at the towering structure, one of the deserted temples of the Four Winds. Naofumi, studying the walls, it looks old. Amber, nodding, these temples have been left to waste for years now. She glanced at him, the people of Mondstadt almost never come here. Paimon, floating closer, why not? Amber, quiet, there's a chance there's a monster nest or a hilichurl camp inside. She looked at the temple entrance, even Stormterror has given up on its own temple. Naofumi, frowning, Stormterror. Paimon, eyes wide, wait, did you just say, its own temple? Amber, sighing, yes. She turned to face them. Amber, I also find it hard to accept, but, she looked at the sky, Stormterror was once one of the Four Winds. Paimon, shrieking, eh. Amber, holding up a hand, wait, she tilted her head, did you just feel that? Naofumi, his hand going to his blade. Feel what? Amber. Eyes narrowing. The wind here. She looked at the temple entrance. Something's off. She started walking toward the doors. Amber. Over her shoulder. Let's go in and take a look. Her voice hardened. Be careful. The dragon's power is disturbing this area. Paimon. Floating after her. Paimon doesn't like the sound of that. Naofumi. Following. Neither do I. Temple of the Falcon, interior. Late morning. The inside of the temple was dark, colder than the outside, with a damp, musty smell that clung to the back of Naofumi's throat. Water dripped from cracks in the ceiling. Moss covered the walls. And in the distance, he could hear the chittering of monsters. Amber. Whispering. Everyone in Mondstadt is still getting blown about by the storm. She looked at Naofumi. Every second we waste is a mark against the name of Favonius. She gestured to the door ahead. Let's get in that temple, stat. They moved forward. First chamber, Hilichurl ambush. The door opened onto a wide chamber, broken pillars, collapsed ceilings, and a group of Hilichurls huddled around a burning fire. They turned. They screamed. They charged. Amber, drawing her bow. Contact. Naofumi drew his dull blade. The wind answered, swirling around him, lifting his hair, edging his blade with pale green light. He struck. The first Hilichurl fell before it could raise its club. The second turned to run, but an arrow from Amber's bow caught it in the back. Amber, firing again. Nice shot. Naofumi, dodging a club swing. That was you. Amber, grinning. I meant me. Paimon, floating above the chaos. Paimon doesn't care who shot it, just keep fighting. The last Hilichurl raised a horn to its lips. Amber, eyes widening. Oh no. She notched an arrow, a horn. She fired. The Hilichurl fell. But the damage was done. Amber, groaning. The fighting must have got them riled up. She reached into her pack. Well, good thing I've prepared my secret weapon. She pulled out a small, rabbit-shaped puppet, red and white, with a wind-up key on its back. Amber, winding it up. Explosive puppet, Baron Bunny. She threw it. The puppet bounced across the floor, landed in the middle of the approaching Hilichurls, and boom. Paimon, staring at the smoke. Paimon likes her. Amber, dusting off her hands. That's the spirit. Second chamber, explosive barrels. They pushed deeper into the temple. The next chamber was wider, and filled with explosive barrels stacked against the walls. Amber, pointing. Are those explosive barrels over there? She grinned. Well, one shot should be able to blow them up. She notched an arrow. Naofumi, holding up a hand. Wait. She fired. The barrels exploded. The Hilichurls guarding them did not survive. Amber, lowering her bow. What were you going to say? Naofumi, staring at the carnage. Nothing. Never mind. Paimon, covering her eyes. Paimon didn't see anything. Third chamber, the chasm. They reached a chasm, wide, deep, with a faint glow emanating from somewhere above. Amber, looking up. It's so high. She squinted. Seems like there's something up there. Paimon, floating over the edge. But how do we get across? She spotted something, a pedestal in the center of the room, glowing with orange light. Paimon, pointing. Isn't this a pyro monument? She turned to Amber. If we hit it with a powerful pyro attack, we might trigger it. Amber, already notching an arrow on it. She fired. The arrow struck the monument. Orange light flared, and from the depths of the chasm, a wind current erupted, carrying them up to the platform above. Naofumi, landing gracefully. That was convenient. Amber, landing beside him. That was intentional. The crystal chamber. At the end of the temple, in a chamber bathed in sickly purple light, they found it. A crystal, pulsing, glowing. Wrong. Amber, staring at it. Dragon's breath. She tightened her grip on her bow. Is that where the power is coming from? Naofumi, drawing his blade. Looks like it. Amber, nodding. Great. She raised her bow. Let's smash it. Together, they attacked. Naofumi's blade struck the crystal with a shower of sparks. Amber's arrows pierced its surface. The crystal pulsed, once, twice, and then shattered into 1,000 fragments. The oppressive energy in the room lifted. Amber, lowering her bow, exhaling. Phew. She wiped her forehead. I'm tired. Paimon, floating beside her. But at least this way we've helped Jean out. Amber, Smiling softly, in the past, we were at least able to defend the city and keep it safe. She looked at Naofumi. This, of course, is mostly thanks to Jean. She looked out at the temple. Amber, quiet but now with storm terror directly attacking the city itself. She straightened. The winds change, so too should our tactics. Naofumi, raising an eyebrow, sounds deep. Paimon, tilting her head, did you come up with it? Amber, laughing, it's what Lisa likes to say. She started walking toward the exit. Speaking of which, the four winds we were discussing earlier. She glanced back. If you want to learn more about our history, you can ask Lisa. She paused. Amber, defensive. I'm not saying I don't know our history. It's just, she waved a hand, I mean, a librarian is supposed to be more knowledgeable than an outrider, right? Paimon, doubtful. If you say so. Amber, hurrying ahead, let's go. Location, Temple of the Wolf, exterior. Afternoon. The second temple was different, older, wilder, hidden in the shadow of a mountain. The wind howled through its broken arches, carrying the scent of pine and snow. Kea waited for them at the entrance, leaning against a pillar with his arms crossed. Kea, pushing off, you've arrived. He walked closer. Kea, tilting his head, come closer. Can you smell that? Naofumi, frowning, I can't smell anything. Paimon, wrinkling her nose, it's the smell of burnt pyro slimes. Kea, nodding, something must have happened in the temple. He looked at the entrance, I imagine there will be slimes, hilichurls, and, whatever is giving Stormterror extra power. He smiled, cold, sharp, amused. Kea, oh yes. It is going to be lively in there indeed. Naofumi, cautious, will it be dangerous? Kea, chuckling, as bustling as it may be. He shook his head, no, I can't imagine it will be dangerous at all. Paimon, floating between them, no doubt nothing more than a disorderly mob of creatures. Kea, grinning, oh, ho ho. He clapped his hands, you're quite the brave one, aren't you? His grin faded. Kea, softer, it's a pity that the Temple of the Wolf has been disturbed by such an atrocity. He gestured to the entrance, let's head in. He walked toward the doors. Kea, over his shoulder, no one makes offerings to the four winds anymore, yet the old winds never vanish. He pushed open the door, we need to clear out the temples. For the four winds. Temple of the Wolf, interior. Afternoon. The temple was darker than the first, narrower corridors, tighter spaces, the walls lined with ancient carvings of wolves and hunters. Kea, walking ahead, my first chance to fight beside you. He glanced back, think we'll make a good team. Naofumi, hand on his blade, we'll see. Kea, grinning, I like your honesty. First room, Hilichurl garrison. They entered a large chamber, and found it filled with Hilichurls. Kea, drawing his sword, let me show you how the knights of Favonius conquer our adversaries. He moved. Fast, faster than Naofumi expected. His blade flashed in the dim light, ice forming along its edge, freezing Hilichurls where they stood. Naofumi followed, wind swirling, blade singing, and together, they cut through the garrison like a scythe through wheat. Kea, sheathing his sword, he looked up, if I'm not mistaken, the end of the temple should be up there. Paimon, floating beside him, wait. How do you know? Kea, touching his eye patch, hey. He smiled, experience. He walked ahead. Kea, quiet, the kind of experience you get after years of dealing with things like this for others. The wind current. They reached a room with a massive chasm, and a wind current swirling up from its depths. Paimon, groaning, finally, we're here. Kea, looking up, seems the path ends here. He gestured to the current, let's use the wind currents to fly up. They jumped. The wind caught them, carried them up, through a tunnel of ancient stone, and deposited them on a platform overlooking the temple's final chamber. Paimon, looking around, water. She pointed at a floating hydro crystal, we can use this to put out fire. Kea, nodding approvingly, good idea. He glanced at Naofumi, that's some keen observation. He smiled. Kea, we should get Jean to give you a title and make you a knight. Naofumi, flat, I've only been here a day. Kea, shrugging, titles are overrated anyway. The crystal chamber. At the end of the temple, another crystal, pulsing, glowing, wrong. Paimon, pointing, is that the thing that Stormterror is using to gain its power? Kea, drawing his sword, seems probable. He stepped forward, let's deal with it. They struck together, ice and wind, steel and fury. The crystal shattered. Kea, sheathing his sword, turning to them, bravo. He bowed slightly, what a performance. He straightened. Kea, you are, to my surprise, a well-trained knight. He smiled, the battles you just fought were sights to behold. Naofumi, bowing his head, thanks. That's nice of you to say. Kea, waving a hand, not worth complimenting really. Kea, interrupting, haha, I see you already have the knightly virtue of modesty. He walked toward the exit. Stories of your heroic deeds to save Mondstadt from destruction shall be known throughout the City of Freedom, well into the future. He paused at the door. Kea, turning, please do visit me at our headquarters when you have the time. He winked, I also know a lovely tavern, if that's more your thing. He left. Temple of the Wolf, Aftermath, Cinematic. As Naofumi and Paimon exited the temple, Kea lingered behind. He stood in the shadows of the entrance, his hand on his sword, his eye fixed on something in the darkness. Kea, quiet, quite rewarding, no. Paimon floated back toward him. Paimon, we've seized another temple from Stormterror's grasp. Kea, nodding, I can take care of the rest here. He looked at them, you go take care of other things while I'm at it. Paimon, waving, see you later then, bye-bye. Naofumi and Paimon walked away. Kea waited until they were out of sight. Kea, to himself, there's no way Hilichurls organized an ambush like this themselves. He turned to the shadows, not with their limited mental capacity. From the darkness, a Hydro Abyss mage revealed itself, bubbling, chittering, its mask gleaming. Hydro Abyss mage, hissing, Gohis, Chizovov. Before Kea could draw his sword, a red-headed man appeared. He moved like fire, fast, brutal, final. The Abyss mage shattered. Lowering his weapon, cold Knights of Favonius, he glanced at Kea, always so inefficient. Kea, smiling, agree to disagree. He tilted his head, but your involvement in this just made things a whole lot more interesting. The red-headed man vanished. Kea stood alone in the shadows, his smile fading. Location. Deep within the Temple of the Lion, exterior. Late afternoon. The third temple was the deepest, buried in the earth, hidden beneath a canopy of ancient trees. Moss covered its walls. Roots snaked through its cracks. Lisa waited for them at the entrance, leaning against her catalyst, her witch's hat casting her face in shadow. Lisa, smiling, hey, cutie. She pushed off from the wall. Lisa, you're going to help me out too. She clasped her hands together, how kind of you. She tilted her head, don't hesitate to come to me if you need anything. Naofumi, curious, what kind of things does a librarian do? Lisa, thoughtful, good question. She held up a finger, basically, things other than that which require brawn. She held up another finger, or brains. Paimon, confused, so, what does that leave? Lisa, laughing, exactly. Naofumi, frowning, why would a librarian be at the ruins? Lisa's smile softened. Lisa, quiet, good question. She looked at the temple entrance, well, because Jean trusts me. She looked back at him, so you should as well. She walked toward the doors. Lisa, over her shoulder, even standing out here, the disturbance of the elemental flow inside is making me uncomfortable. She pushed open the door, let's get this temple back to its normal state, so I can be a little less tense. Temple of the Lion, interior. Late afternoon. The temple was vast, cavernous, echoing, filled with the sound of dripping water and distant monster growls. Lisa, looking around, I guess I could give this a go. She raised her catalyst. Lightning crackled between her fingers. Lisa, walking ahead, I knew it. She looked deeper into the temple, there is a strong elemental energy coming from deep within this temple. Paimon, floating beside her, can't do much even if she does. Lisa, nodding, good point. She looked at Naofumi, we'd better start looking for a way to get up there then. The wind current. They found it, a wind current, swirling up from a broken pillar. Lisa, gesturing, let's ride this wind current, shall we? They jumped. The wind carried them up, past crumbling balconies, past ancient statues, past the bones of creatures long dead. Pyro slime ambush. They landed on a platform, and found themselves surrounded by pyro slimes. Lisa, raising her catalyst, calm, leave it to me. Lightning arced from her hands, jumping from slime to slime, chain reacting, obliterating them in a flash of violet light. Naofumi, staring at the smoldering remains. That was efficient. Lisa, dusting off her hands, when it comes to wet enemies, she smiled, I've got them covered. The Electro Monument. They entered a chamber dominated by a massive pedestal, glowing with purple light. Lisa, studying it, it's an Electro Monument. She raised her catalyst, no wonder. She looked at them, let me try to activate it with a bit of electro power. She waved them back, stand back, sweeties. She channeled. Lightning struck the monument. The doors opened. The crystal chamber. At the deepest point of the temple, they found it, the third crystal, pulsing with Stormterror's power. Lisa, cracking her knuckles, break it and we can head home and relax. She smiled, the thought of putting my feet up and relaxing has me all fired up. They struck together. The crystal shattered. Temple of the Lion, Aftermath. Lisa, leaning against a pillar, catching her breath, Dragon of the East, Lion of the South, Wolf of the North, Falcon of the West. She looked at Naofumi, they are the four winds of Mondstadt. Affiliated with Barbados, the god of Anemo. Naofumi, listening, and Stormterror. Lisa, quiet, the Dragon of the East. Stormterror. She looked at the ceiling, its real name is Divalon. Paimon, floating closer, Divalon. Lisa, nodding, though most in Mondstadt seemed to have forgotten that in all this, Stormterror, business. She looked at them, so now you know why Divalon is only able to channel 3 of the 4 winds. Power. Her voice dropped because it has been consuming itself from the beginning. Naofumi, frowning, why? He stepped closer, why would it go to such lengths? Lisa, quiet, because of hatred, I presume. Paimon, shocked, hatred. Lisa, nodding, hatred for Mondstadt. She looked out at the temple, hatred drove it to become something more powerful than the wind itself. Her voice hardened, to become Stormterror. Paimon, confused, but why would one of the 4 winds? She floated closer, hate the city it was supposed to protect. Lisa was silent for a long moment. Lisa, finally, she shook her head, as a child of Mondstadt, it's something that's really hard to say aloud. She reached into her pack and pulled out a small, leather-bound book. Lisa, handing it to Naofumi, here. Take this. She smiled, sad, tired, it's a very old story. From more than a century ago. Naofumi, taking the book. Thank you. Lisa, turning toward the exit, come on. She looked back, let's go home. Location. Mondstadt, sky. After clearing all 3 temples. The clouds parted. Sunlight streamed through the gap, warm, golden, hopeful. The wind, which had been howling for weeks, settled into a gentle breeze. Paimon, floating above the city, looking up, phew. She exhaled, it's finally done. She turned to Naofumi. Paimon, cheerful, well, all that, lay flow, and, elemental lines, stuff Lisa was going on about should hopefully be back to normal. She floated in a circle, wanna go back and see how the knights are doing. Naofumi, nodding, yeah. Let's check in. Paimon, grinning, but if you got anything more interesting to do, Paimon can come too. She paused. Paimon, thoughtful, by the way, we obtained another animalculus in one of the 4 winds, temples, right? She pointed at him, we might come across more of them in the future, so don't forget to offer them to the statues. Naofumi, looking at the sky. I won't. They walked toward the city. The wind blew, gentle, warm, full of promise. And somewhere in the distance, a dragon stirred. Chapter 7, The Weight of Feathers. The Return. The winds of Mondstadt had calmed. Naofumi could feel it as he walked through the city gates, not just the absence of storm clouds, but something deeper. The elemental flow had settled, like a fever breaking. The air no longer felt angry. Paimon, finally. Paimon's feathers were getting permanently ruffled. Naofumi, you don't have feathers. Paimon, it's the principle of the thing. They walked through the familiar streets, past the blacksmith's forge, past the fountain in the plaza, past the vendor selling sticky honey roast that Paimon had to be physically dragged away from. Naofumi, we need to report to Jean first. Food later. Paimon, you drive a hard bargain, Naofumi. But fine. Priority. Paimon understands. They rounded the corner toward the Goth Grand Hotel, and stopped. The unwelcome guest. Paimon. Isn't that Jean? Naofumi followed her gaze. The acting Grand Master stood near the hotel's entrance, her posture rigid, her hand resting on the hilt of her sword. She wasn't alone. A woman stood across from her, tall, pale, dressed in a uniform that was almost formal. White furs draped her shoulders. A mask, half-face, theatrical, hid her eyes. Her smile was the kind that didn't reach anything real. Paimon. Seems she's talking to someone. Naofumi. Doesn't look friendly. Paimon. Let's let her finish, then go say hi. Paimon doesn't want to interrupt, whatever that is. They hung back, close enough to hear, far enough to pretend they weren't listening. The conversation. Anastasia. Which is what has brought us to this point in the first place. Her voice was silk over steel, polite, but edged with something harder. Anastasia. If you are unable to promptly deal with the Stormterror threat, then leave the defense of Mondstadt to the Fatui. Naofumi's jaw tightened. Fatui. He'd heard the name before, always in whispers, never in praise. Anastasia. We can put an end to Mondstadt's dragon issues. All we need to do is bring that monster to the... Jean. Monster. The word came out cold. Sharp. Anastasia. Yes. What's your point? Jean's composure didn't crack, but Naofumi saw her fingers tighten on her sword hilt. Jean. I'd expect a more professional attitude from your diplomats. Yet here you are, saying you want to put an end to one of the four winds of Mondstadt. She stepped forward, not aggressive but present. A wall dressed in a coat. Jean. I won't have any of this nonsense in front of the Knights of Favonius. For a moment, Anastasia's smile flickered. Then it returned, wider this time, almost amused. Anastasia. Hey. He. It's not as crazy as you make it sound. She adjusted her gloves. Anastasia. Fine. That's enough negotiation for today. At this stage, it's simply an amicable exchange of constructive opinions, no. She tilted her head. Anastasia. I'll be sure to make thorough notes. She left without another word, heels clicking against stone, white furs trailing behind her like the wings of a vulture. After the storm, Jean exhaled, slowly, deliberately, and turned. Jean. Oh, traveler. You're back. Her smile was genuine, but tired. The kind of tired that lived in bones, not muscles. Jean. Thanks for your help. The elemental flow is finally stable. The aftermath of Stormterror's last attack is settled, for the moment. Paimon. That's good, right? Jean. It should be. But. She glanced toward the street where Anastasia had disappeared. Jean. The pressure from the delegation has become too big to be ignored. Paimon. Delegation. From Liu Harbor. Inazuma City. Jean. Snaznaya. They choose to follow the god of Cryo. Their envoys go by a particular name, the Fatui. Heard of them? Paimon. Oh, them. They're super famous. A pause. Paimon. Wait, infamous is more the word. Naofumi filed that away. Infamous. Good to know. Jean. I don't think killing Stormterror is the right course of action. The Cryo gods Fatui have always coveted the Anemo gods' power. I don't believe they have Mondstadt's best interests at heart. Naofumi considered this. Then, carefully, he spoke. Naofumi. Speaking of power, there's something I need to show the Knights of Favonius. Jean's eyebrows rose. Jean. Oh. Let's head back to headquarters then. We shouldn't discuss important matters, out in the open. She glanced at the hotel windows, too many eyes, too many ears. Jean. Follow me. The walk. They walked through the city, Jean setting a pace that was brisk but not hurried. Naofumi matched it. Paimon floated beside him, unusually quiet. Jean. Mondstadt and Snaznaya are considered equal in status. Mondstadt is independent, it does not belong to any other nation. In fact, despite being referred to as a city, Mondstadt is a nation. Paimon. Then why do the Fatui get to push you around? Jean. Because they're diplomats. And the Fatui are known to be the most aggressive diplomats in Teyvat. Paimon. Makes sense, given the tone of that woman just now. So rude. Naofumi said nothing, but he watched. He watched the way Jean's shoulders carried more weight than any one person should bear. He watched the way citizens stepped aside for her, not out of fear, but out of respect. He wondered if anyone ever stepped aside for her. The headquarters. The Knights of Favonius headquarters was a building of stone and stained glass, ancient but well maintained. Inside, the air smelled of old paper and candle wax. Lisa was waiting. The librarian leaned against a bookshelf, her chin propped on her hand, her eyes half closed. But when Naofumi entered, she straightened. Lisa, back already. My, you work fast. Jean closed the door behind them. Jean, the traveler has something to show us. Naofumi reached into his bag and pulled out the crystal. It pulsed, faintly, irregularly, with a light that was almost wrong. Not dark, not corrupted, just other. Like a color that didn't exist, translated into something the eye could barely process. Jean leaned in. Lisa's eyes widened. Jean, it's a crystal embedded with some kind of power. Lisa, are you able to analyze it? Lisa stepped forward, reached out, and stopped. Lisa, let me take a look. She squinted. Her fingers hovered inches from the surface. Lisa, I can see impurities in the crystal. But upon further inspection, no, I'm sorry. I can't make a proper analysis at the moment. She withdrew her hand. Lisa, give me some time. I'll take a look through the library's restricted section. Jean, right, I'll leave the research to you, then. Lisa, understood. I'll notify you all if I make any progress. Though I wouldn't go getting your hopes up. They are incredibly ancient texts, not to mention, ouch. Quote. She jerked her hand back. Lisa, gosh, that hurt. Paimon, what happened? Lisa stared at her fingers, unmarked, but trembling. Lisa, the impurities in the crystal. It hurts when I get close. She looked at Naofumi, really looked at him, for the first time. Lisa, I see. It appears to react to visions. The impurities and the elemental energy we embody repel each other. She paused. Lisa, it's strange, though. You have elemental abilities as well, but you don't seem to be affected the same way. Naofumi looked down at the crystal. It pulsed. He felt nothing. Naofumi, maybe it's because I'm not from here. Lisa, maybe. She didn't sound convinced. Lisa, anyway, the crystal would be better left in the hands of my cutie. It will just be a pain if left with us, both literally and metaphorically. Naofumi blinked. Naofumi, cutie. Lisa smiled, slow, warm, dangerous. Lisa, did I stutter? Naofumi, right, I'll keep it. He put the crystal back in his bag. The pulsing faded, or maybe it was just hidden. The weight of a title. Jean watched him carefully. Jean, fascinating. Do you know anything about what makes you special? Naofumi shook his head. He didn't. He wasn't sure he wanted to. Jean nodded, accepting, not pressing, and folded her hands behind her back. Jean, I do not know what to make of it either. Well, then, traveler. The Knights of Favonius have another favor to ask of you. She straightened. Jean, please accept the title of Honorary Knight, and the gratitude of the Acting Grand Master. Silence. Paimon, Honorary Knight, of Favonius. Jean, we ask for your continued assistance in finding some answers. Stormterror's rage, and strange crystals. I know Mondstadt's peace hangs in the balance. She extended her hand. Jean, may the wind open your eyes to the truth. We'll meet back here if you find anything. Naofumi looked at her hand. Then at Paimon, who was nodding so enthusiastically she was bobbing in the air. Then back at Jean. He took her hand. Naofumi, I'll do what I can. Jean's grip was firm, strong. Jean, that's all I ask. A moment with Lisa. The others dispersed, but Lisa lingered. Naofumi found her by the bookshelves, running her fingers along spines that looked older than some countries. Lisa, you're still here. Naofumi, I had questions. Lisa, of course you do. She didn't turn around. Naofumi, the library. Can I use it? She glanced over her shoulder, half smile, half warning. Lisa, you can visit whenever you need to look something up. Naturally, the library is free to access. Naofumi, good. Lisa, just don't forget to return books on time. Or you'll make my job difficult. The word difficult had teeth. Naofumi, noted. He hesitated. Naofumi, what about monsters? Where can I learn about them? Lisa turned fully now, leaning against the shelf with her arms crossed. Lisa, the monsters out in the wild. We've got many resources here. Making good use of elemental advantages is the key to winning any battle. She tilted her head. Lisa, by the way, would you be interested in having a part-time job here? Naofumi, doing what? Lisa, we need people for doing. She waved a hand vaguely. We just need more people. Naofumi, I'll think about it. Lisa, that's all I ask. She smiled, genuine, this time. Lisa, you're leaving. Drop by again sometime when you're free. Naofumi nodded and walked toward the door. Naofumi, Lisa. Lisa, Naofumi, that crystal. When you touched it, what did it feel like? Lisa's smile faded. Lisa, like touching a memory that didn't belong to me. Cold, lonely, hungry. She turned back to the bookshelf. Lisa, be careful with it, cutie. Some things aren't meant to be carried alone. A moment with Jean. Naofumi found Jean at the window, looking out over the city. She didn't turn when he approached, but she spoke. Jean, about Stormterror, there must be something we are still not aware of. Naofumi stood beside her. Naofumi, how do we fight it? Jean was quiet for a long moment. Jean, its change in size and power really is suspicious. But for the Knights of Favonius, our priority is to deal with the aftermath of this attack. She looked down at her hands that had held a sword for too many years. Jean, the Grand Master entrusted the Knights of Favonius to me. I cannot let him, or the people of Mondstadt, down. Naofumi, you won't. She glanced at him, surprised, maybe, by the certainty in his voice. Jean, I must get to the bottom of this. Naofumi, then let me help. Jean studied him for a moment, this strange traveler from nowhere, carrying powers he didn't understand and a past he wouldn't share. Jean, the Fatui, those people in strange uniforms. Stay away from them. Having contact with them is dangerous, even for innocent travelers. Naofumi, noted. Jean, may the wind guide you. She turned back to the window. The conversation was over. The streets of Mondstadt. Naofumi walked out into the evening air. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the city in shades of golden rose. Children played in the plaza. A bard strummed a lyre near the fountain. Somewhere, someone was laughing. Paimon. So, honorary knight, huh? Naofumi. Sounds like a lot of responsibility. Paimon. Sounds like free food. Naofumi. That's not how knighthood works. Paimon. Then what's the point? Naofumi almost smiled. Almost. He looked up at the sky, clear now, calm, and thought about the crystal in his bag. About the Fatui woman with her vulture smile. About Jean, standing alone at a window, carrying the weight of a nation on her shoulders. Naofumi, Paimon. Yeah, Naofumi, what's Snezhnaya like? Paimon shuddered. Paimon, cold. Really, really cold. And the people there, they're not like the people here. They smile differently. Naofumi, differently how? Paimon, like they know something you don't. Like they've already won. Naofumi thought about Anastasia's smile, the way it hadn't reached her eyes. Naofumi, yeah, I noticed. He started walking. Naofumi, come on, let's get dinner. Paimon, finally. Paimon thought you'd never ask. She floated ahead, chattering about sticky honey roast and the proper way to season fish. Naofumi followed, slower, quieter, and tried not to think about hungry crystals and colder smiles. He failed. Meanwhile, outside Mondstadt's walls, Anastasia stood on a hill overlooking the city. The wind pulled at her furs. The setting sun painted her mask in shades of blood and amber. Behind her, a figure emerged from the shadows, taller than her, broader, his face hidden behind a different mask. Figure, the traveler. Anastasia, the same. Figure, and the crystal. Anastasia, they have it. Figure, then our work is done. Anastasia, begun. She turned away from the city. Anastasia, the honorary knight of Favonius. How quaint. She began walking, toward the mountains, toward the snow, toward home. Anastasia, let's see how long that title lasts. Chapter 8, The Bard's Lament. The Unspoken Truth. The doors of the Knights of Favonius headquarters closed behind them. Naofumi walked in silence, his boots echoing against the stone floor. Paimon floated beside him, unusually quiet, unusually thoughtful. They crossed the plaza, passed the fountain, found a bench beneath the shade of an oak tree that had stood for longer than most nations. Paimon, there's something you didn't tell them. Naofumi didn't look at her. Paimon. The dragon and the crystal weren't the only things we saw. He knew what she meant. The figure in green. The way he'd stood before Stormterror, not as an enemy, not as a hunter, but as something else entirely. Something that looked like grief. Naofumi, I'd like to investigate it on my own first. Paimon. On your own. Naofumi, I don't think he's a bad guy. Paimon blinked. Paimon. The dragon. Or the weirdo in green. Naofumi. Either. Both. He leaned back on the bench, staring up at the sky. The clouds moved lazily, nothing like the storm-tossed chaos of the past weeks. Naofumi. Something about that dragon, it's not just rage. It's hurt. Paimon floated in front of his face, her expression skeptical. Paimon. You got all that from a few seconds of staring. Naofumi. I got it from the way the green guy looked at him. He paused. Naofumi. You don't look at a monster like that. You look at a friend. Paimon was quiet for a long moment. Paimon. So you do remember him. That green guy. Naofumi. Hard to forget someone who talks to dragons. Paimon. He looked just like that guy down there. Naofumi followed her pointing finger. The familiar stranger. Across the plaza, near the fountain, stood a figure in green. Same color. Same casual posture. Same bard's cap perched at an angle that suggested he'd never taken life seriously a day in his existence. He was playing a lyre. Badly. Or maybe well, Naofumi couldn't tell. The instrument seemed to be making music despite the bard's fingers, not because of them. Naofumi. The exact same shade of green. What a coincidence. Paimon. See. She grabbed his sleeve. Wait, hold on a minute. That. Her eyes widened. Paimon. That's the same guy. Quote. Naofumi. Well, looks like him. Paimon. What? She zoomed toward the fountain, then stopped, realizing she had no idea what she was going to do when she got there. Paimon. Naofumi. He's right there. What do we do? Naofumi. We follow him. Quietly. Paimon. Paimon can be quiet. Paimon is very quiet. She immediately knocked over a potted plant. Paimon. That doesn't count. The chase. The bard, if that's what he was, finished his song, accepted a few coins from a passing merchant, and strolled toward the city gates. He moved like someone who had nowhere to be and all day to get there. Naofumi followed at a distance. Paimon floated behind him, occasionally bumping into things. Paimon. That green guy disappeared. Naofumi scanned the street. Nothing. Paimon. Use elemental sight to track him down. Naofumi closed his eyes. Reached for the wind, his wind, the power he'd claimed from the statue of the Seven. The world shifted. Colors bled into new shapes. Traces of anemo energy glowed like faint footprints in the air. Paimon. His footprints lead to this wall. Did he climb up from here? Naofumi looked up. The wall was tall, maybe too tall to climb normally. But he wasn't normal anymore. Naofumi. Let's go after him. He reached for the wall. The wind answered. The performance. They found him at the edge of the city, near a cluster of trees that overlooked the lake. He was sitting on a rock, legs crossed, lyre in his lap, looking for all the world like he'd been expecting them. Venti. Ah. You made it. Naofumi stopped a few paces away. Paimon hid behind his shoulder, which was less effective than she seemed to think, given that she was floating 3 feet above it. Naofumi. You knew we were following you. Venti. Of course. You're not exactly subtle. He smiled, warm, easy, and somehow ancient. Venti. But that's not a criticism. Honesty is rare. It should be encouraged. He patted the rock beside him. Venti. Sit. Listen. I have a story to tell. Naofumi hesitated. Then, slowly, he sat. Paimon hovered behind him, arms crossed, expression suspicious. Paimon. This better be good. Venti's fingers found the lyre's strings. And he began to play. The Song of the Dragon. What is to be sung transpired in days of yore. When the divine archons still walked the earth. A dragon cast his curious gaze on the world below. As he parted from the heavens that gave his birth. The melody was soft, gentle, like wind through wheat. Naofumi felt something loosen in his chest. The dragon sought truth amongst common folk. But mortal trifles only fogged his mind. The windborn bard strummed his strings dolce. And the holy lyre answered his questions kind. Venti's voice shifted, not changing, but deepening. The song was no longer just a song. It was a memory. The dragon was but a child full of wonder, and soared the heavens free from care. The bard's songs invited him to sing along, for he yearned to let all perceive him fair. Paimon's expression softened. Even she, cynical, hungry, always moving Paimon, was still. Enchanting legends the bard and dragon were. But the tides of despair soon engulfed the land. The lion fang perished and the falcon flag slept. As a vile dragon approached Mondstadt in lone stand. Over the cathedral loomed death and his friends. The music darkened. The wind picked up, not from Teyvat, but from somewhere deeper. Somewhere old. Of the people's agony the bard soon sang. The soaring dragon heeded his grave calls. And amidst the windstorms a brutal war sprang. Blood of venom sent the sky dragon into slumber, only to awake to be expelled in abhor. Venti's fingers trembled on the strings. Why do people in this age loathe me so? But the holy lyre replied no more. The final notes hung in the air, fragile, unfinished. Wrath and woe, vigor and venom, poured from the dragon's bitter eyes. The dragon's curse sprawled in silence. But the lyre could no longer soothe his cries. After the song, silence. The wind settled. The birds, which had fallen quiet during the performance, began to sing again. Paimon. That was. She didn't finish. She didn't have the words. Naofumi stared at Venti. Naofumi, that wasn't just a story. Venti. No, the bard said softly. It wasn't. He set the lyre down in his lap. Venti, that was the truth. Or as much of it as I can bear to sing. Naofumi studied him, really studied him. The too young face. The two old eyes. The way the wind seemed to linger around him, like a child reluctant to leave its parent. Naofumi, who are you? Venti smiled. Sad. Knowing. Venti. I'm Venti. Just a bard. 3-time winner of, most popular bard of Mondstadt, to be precise. Paimon. That's not what he means and you know it. Venti laughed, a sound that belonged in a tavern, not on a hillside overlooking a dragon's tears. Venti. Perhaps. But answers are like songs. They need the right moment. He stood. Venti. You scared Dvalin away, you know. Back in the forest. Paimon. Dvalin. Who's that? Naofumi. That's Stormterror's real name. Paimon. Huh. Oh, right. Most people seem to call him Stormterror. She turned to Venti, squinting. Paimon. Why do you call him that? Are you two meant to be close or something? Venti's smile flickered, just for a moment. Venti. Oh, so close. Paimon. Hey, traveler. Paimon thinks this guy has a screw loose. Naofumi ignored her. Naofumi. Ah, hi. Venti. Good day, Outlander. Seems we meet again. Naofumi. I'm sorry. You are. Venti. Venti the bard. 3-time winner of, most popular bard of Mondstadt, to be precise. He bowed, exaggerated, theatrical. Venti. So. What do you need from me? Paimon. Given you recognize us, Paimon doesn't believe we need to explain any further. Of course it's about Stormterror. Venti. Storm. Paimon. Hey, cut it with the amnesia act. Traveler, show it to him. Naofumi reached into his bag and pulled out the crystal. The tear. Venti's breath caught. Venti. Oh, isn't this? Paimon. What? The crystal has been purified. When? Naofumi looked down at the crystal in his palm. The dark impurities were gone. It glowed now, soft and clear, like frozen sunlight. Naofumi. Not sure how this happened. The last time I checked, it was full of impurities. Venti reached out, hesitant, almost reverent, and his fingers brushed the crystal surface. Venti. Dvalin, he. His voice cracked. Venti. The anguish he feels, has brought him to tears. Paimon. Tears. Tears. Naofumi turned the word over in his mind. The crystal. The dragon. The sorrow that had seeped into stone. Venti. He was once such a gentle child. Now so full of rage and suffering. He reached into his own bag and pulled out a second crystal, identical in shape, but darker. Heavier. Still corrupted. Venti. I also came across a teardrop crystal. Can you purify it? Naofumi took it. The moment his fingers closed around the stone, he felt it, the same pull, the same warmth, the same something that had awakened in him at the statue of the Seven. The crystal pulsed. The impurities faded. And in his palm lay another tear, pure and clear and sad. Paimon. Venti stared at the purified crystal in Naofumi's hand. Venti, you really do have some wonderful abilities. He smiled, genuine, this time. Venti, someone like you is going to end up getting written into a bard's poem. He tapped his chin. Venti, oh, a hero so bright, should he stand in the light? Those stand in the shade, and you'll be met by a blade. He shrugged. Venti, alas, I've really not the time to compose a melody for you at this moment. The warning. Venti, anyway, even if Divalin is not taken down, his life will still wither away in the breeze. He'll burn himself out in the flames of anger. Naofumi, I also feel sorry for Divalin. Venti's eyes widened, just a fraction. Venti, thank you for that. And thank you for purifying the teardrop crystal. He tucked his lyre under his arm. Venti, but I have my own plans for what is to follow. Naofumi, is there anything I can do to help? Venti, I really must thank you for purifying the teardrop crystal. It has helped me greatly. But I've already come to devise my own plan. Paimon, oh, and what plan would that be? Venti smiled, cryptic, unreadable. Venti, seeing this tear has brought to mind a friend so dear. Paimon, friend. Venti, haha, one must be going. He turned, not dramatically, not hurriedly. Just left, like someone stepping off a stage. Paimon, hey, where are you running off to? Venti, to the symbol of Mondstadt's hero. Bye-bye. And then he was gone, dissolving into the wind-like mist at dawn. The aftermath. Paimon, traveler, what do you make of that? Naofumi stared at the space where Venti had stood. Naofumi, this weirdo, as you put it, we need to keep an eye on him. Paimon, as far as he's concerned, you're a weirdo too, ya know. Naofumi, you know. Paimon, know what? Naofumi, his voice seems familiar. Paimon, familiar. I don't know. You're alone on that one. She floated in a small circle, thinking. Paimon, but did he just say, symbol of Mondstadt's heroes? What could that be? She snapped her fingers. Paimon. Oh, Paimon knows. It's that huge tree. You know, the gigantic one. You can't miss it. Surely you still remember. Naofumi looked toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, beyond the city walls, a tree older than nations stood waiting. Naofumi, then that's where we're going. Paimon, right now. Naofumi, right now. He started walking. Paimon, wait, what about food? What about rest? Naofumi. She zoomed after him, grumbling. Paimon, honestly, heroes and their dramatic entrances. No sense of schedule. But she followed. She always followed. Meanwhile, the cathedral. Venti stood at the base of the statue, the massive lyre carved from stone in memory. He placed his palm against its surface. Venti, I'm sorry, old friend. I should have come sooner. The wind whispered around him, not answering, but listening. Venti, soon. I promise. Soon. He closed his eyes. And for the first time in centuries, the Anemo Archon prayed. Chapter 9. A lyre lost, a plan found. The Bard's Gambit. The cathedral steps were quieter than Naofumi expected. Venti stood in the shadow of a pillar, his lyre tucked under one arm, his expression caught somewhere between amusement and disappointment. Venti, it didn't work. I knew it. Paimon, you knew it. Venti, I just wanted to know how influential our hotshot honorary knight really is. He tilted his head, studying Naofumi with those two old eyes. Venti, you see, the best warrior should always be presented with the best sword. And yet here we are. Paimon, so what are you trying to say? That we're not good enough? Venti, no, not at all. More of a commentary regarding Mondstadt's inability to see the warrior standing right before its very eyes. Naofumi said nothing. He'd learned that silence was often louder than argument. Venti, very well. Looks like borrowing it is not going to be possible. He straightened, brushing invisible dust from his cape. Venti, we're simply going to have to steal it. Paimon choked. Paimon, steal it. Venti, today, we stand for free will. He spread his arms dramatically. Any suggestions on just how we steal it? Naofumi stared at him. Naofumi. Venti, come now, speak up. That's what free will is for. Naofumi, I don't want to steal anything. Venti laughed, bright and genuine, like wind chimes in a storm. Venti. Ha ha ha. Look at you. Sidetracked from the start. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Venti. But seriously, you're more suitable for the job than I. Aside from singing, I don't really have any other talents. Besides, if I was caught, I'd have no one to right the grave injustice of my arrest. Paimon. How can it be a grave injustice if you got caught stealing red-handed? Venti. Details, details. He waved a dismissive hand. Venti. But things are different for you, honorary knight. You're the superstar of the Knights of Favonius. You've made contributions to Mondstadt. Should you get caught, you would easily be able to talk your way out of it. Paimon. Stop mentioning us getting caught. Venti. The guards here, it seems they're off duty throughout the night. If we manage to seize this opportunity, it should be smooth sailing from there. He turned to Naofumi, his expression suddenly serious. Venti. What do you say? Naofumi was quiet for a long moment. Naofumi. I'm sorry, wait. Did you just say, you're Barbados? Venti blinked, then smiled. Venti. Ah, yes. Seems I did mention that. Naofumi. Your point being. Venti. If you really are a god, then we can't simply abandon you. Venti's smile flickered, just for a moment. Venti. Why does your decision hinge upon whether or not I am a god? Paimon floated between them, waving her hands. Paimon. Paimon'll fill you in on Traveler's background story when we get the time. Naofumi. And if you're not a god? He met Venti's eyes. Naofumi. Then I'll help Devalin anyway. Venti went very still. Naofumi. I will bring you the holy lyre der Himmel. He looked away, toward the cathedral, toward the statue, toward something only he could see. Naofumi. I don't want to see another separation. The wind held its breath. Then Venti smiled, soft, sad, grateful. Venti. Then let's get to work. The waiting game. Venti. Don't be shy. Go. Naofumi approached the cathedral basement entrance. The guard, a young man with a tired face and an older man's sigh, held up his hand. Otto. Man, this stinks. Having to stand around here all day long, guarding this entrance. Hey, don't move. You can't go down there. Naofumi stepped back. Paimon. Seems we're gonna have to wait until nightfall to sneak in. Naofumi. Then we wait. They found a bench. Watched the sun crawl across the sky. Listened to the city breathe. Paimon fidgeted. Paimon. Paimon hates waiting. Naofumi. I noticed. Paimon. Is that sarcasm? Naofumi. Maybe. Paimon. Paimon doesn't appreciate sarcasm. Naofumi. Noted. They waited. The theft. Night fell. The cathedral darkened. The guards rotated, new faces, same tired eyes. And finally, the basement entrance stood unguarded. Paimon. Now. They slipped inside. The basement was cold, colder than Naofumi expected. Stone walls. Flickering torches. And at the center, on a pedestal of white marble, the holy lyre der Himmel. It was beautiful. Strings of silver, wood the color of ancient gold, and an aura that hummed with power older than memory. Naofumi. There it is. He stepped forward, reached out. And a hand, gloved, feminine, cold, closed around the lyre an instant before his fingers touched it. Paimon. Oh. The woman was tall, pale. A mask covered half her face, and insects made of pure electro-energy buzzed around her shoulders. Paimon. Who are you? The woman smiled, a thin, cruel curve of lips. Fatui Electro Sisson Mage, no one you need to remember. She vanished. Not ran, not hid. Vanished, dissolving into a cloud of violet light that left nothing behind but the smell of ozone and the echo of her laugh. Paimon. She disappeared. Footsteps thundered behind them. Knight of Favonius, freeze. What are you doing here? Paimon. Oh no. Run. Quote. They ran. The escape. They burst out of the cathedral, lungs burning, legs pumping. Venti was waiting by the fountain, looking for all the world like he'd just finished a pleasant stroll. Paimon. Oh no. We're busted. Run. Quote. Venti. What? Follow me. They followed. Through alleys. Over walls. Past a sleeping dog that woke up, barked once, and went back to sleep. Finally, they ducked into a doorway, chests heaving, and Venti pulled the door closed behind them. Naofumi. We didn't get it. Venti. I noticed. Paimon. Someone else stole it. Right in front of us. Venti's expression darkened. Venti. The Fatui. Naofumi. You saw her. Venti. I felt her. Electro energy. Sissons. That was a Fatui Electro Sisson mage. He ran a hand through his hair. Venti. This complicates things. Paimon. Complicates. Everything's on fire and you say complicates. Venti glanced around. Venti. We need somewhere to regroup. Somewhere the guards won't look. His eyes landed on a sign across the street, a wooden board painted with a wine glass and a rising sun. Venti. There. The tavern. Charles. Master Deluc, this is this week's accounts. Deluc. The disaster has greatly affected business. Charles. Well, let's hope it all ends soon. The door opened. Venti stepped in first, all smiles and easy confidence, like he hadn't just fled a crime scene. Venti. Hi. We'd like a seat at your, least conspicuous table. The man behind the counter looked up. He was young, maybe mid-20s, with red hair that caught the firelight like embers. His eyes were the color of aged wine. His expression was unimpressed. Deluc. The second floor has fewer customers. You'd be less conspicuous up there. He paused. Deluc. But aren't you a bard? Why not sit front and center? Venti. Ha ha ha. Let's save the paid performance for next time. We'll be heading up now. See you in a bit. He practically dragged Naofumi toward the stairs. As they climbed, Naofumi heard Deluc's voice, lower now, speaking to Charles. Deluc. Hey, keep an eye on them. There's something strange about that bard. I'll go ask around. Charles. Ask who exactly? Deluc. The protectors of Mondstadt. Naofumi filed that away. Protectors. Plural. Interesting. The second floor. The upstairs room was small, wood-paneled, with windows that overlooked the street. A single lantern flickered on the table. Venti collapsed into a chair. Venti. Well, that could have gone better. Paimon. Could have gone worse, too. We could be in jail. Venti. Glass half full. I like it. Naofumi didn't sit. He stood by the window, watching the street below. Naofumi. The Fatui. Why would they want a liar? Venti. Why does anyone want anything? Power. Leverage. A pretty thing to hang on their wall. His voice was light, but his eyes were not. Venti. The liar is more than an instrument. It's a key, a symbol, and in the wrong hands. He didn't finish. Footsteps on the stairs. Deluc appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. Deluc. Not going upstairs yet. You both seem to be in a hurry. Naofumi. We're fine here. Deluc. I'm sure you are. He didn't leave, just stood there, watching. Below, voices drifted up, guards, by the sound of them. Otto. Master Deluc. Have you seen two thieves around? Deluc. What happened? Why have you mobilized so many guards? Miles. Haven't you heard, Master Deluc? Two thieves were trying to steal the Holy Lyre. Deluc. Oh, how odd. Miles. Isn't it? The Holy Lyre is a treasure that was played by the god of Anemo themselves. Such a precious piece of cultural heritage. Deluc. Why would one want to steal something they can't sell off? Would pay better to steal from my sellers. Otto. Deluc. Sorry, off topic. Believe they headed that way. Miles. Understood. Thank you, Master Deluc. The guard's footsteps faded. Deluc turned back to them. Deluc. You can put down that bottle you stole from behind the counter. Venti, who had indeed been reaching for a bottle behind the counter, froze. Venti. Something cold. Deluc. Right, I want answers. Venti. Let me finish my drink first. I'll pay you, well, with a performance. Deluc. It's not about money. You seem too young to be drinking. Venti. No need to worry. When I started drinking, you were still. Naofumi. How about answering my question first? Venti blinked. Venti. Oh, you wanna ask, who's this? Am I right? Naofumi. Actually, yeah. Venti gestured grandly. Venti. He is Master Deluc, the boss of, the owner of this tavern. Very famous. By the way, his dandelion wine is one of my favorites. Though most of the time I can only afford a bottle or two. Deluc. I just heard about some thieves from the guards. He leaned against the doorframe. Deluc. For the record, I like your guts for trying to steal the Holy Lyre der Himmel. Even if you are fools, but we don't often get to see people like you. Paimon. It wasn't us that stole it. The real thief is still out there. Venti. This is the hotshot of the Knights of Favonius. Why would someone so aspiring steal Mondstadt's sacred treasure? Diluc's eyes narrowed. Diluc. Hotshot. Oh, so it's you. He studied Naofumi, longer this time, sharper. Diluc. So, you and the bard are close friends. Naofumi. We're not close, actually. I've only heard him play once. Diluc. Well, despite only being a passing traveler, you still offered your help to Mondstadt in its time of need. He almost smiled. Diluc. A shame you joined the Knights. The Knights of Favonius. Inefficient right from beginning to end. And towards the Fatui. Weak and conservative. His expression darkened. Diluc. Forget it. I don't feel like talking about it. Venti. Seems you don't really like the Knights of Favonius. Diluc. Just differences in approach is all. I have my own hopes for this city. He pushed off from the doorframe. Diluc. Now. Answers. Why did you steal the Holy Lyre? Venti. You sure you want to know? It could implicate you in the affairs of the Knights of Favonius. Diluc. That's fine. I somehow always end up implicated in their affairs. Venti. If I tell you the story with a performance, will you believe me? Diluc. It depends. I'll make my own judgment. Venti. Then will I get paid? Diluc. Your reward will range from anywhere between 5 mora and the Holy Lyre. It all depends on your story. Venti smiled. Venti. Very well. Let me put on a show. The second song. He played. Same song. Same melody. Same words that spoke of dragons and bards and blood that poisoned the sky. But this time, Naofumi heard something new. Grief. Not the performance of grief. Not the echo of sorrow. The real thing. Raw. Open. Bleeding. When the last note faded, the tavern was silent. Diluc stared at Venti. Diluc. What did I just witness? Venti. The truth. Diluc. This is confidential information. Why did you let me know? Venti shrugged. Venti. Why? Perhaps the winds are changing. He leaned forward. Venti. What say you, Master Diluc? Diluc was quiet for a long moment. Diluc. Interesting. He stood. Diluc. Give me some time. I'll organize some contacts. He glanced at Naofumi. Diluc. Outlander, as one of the knights, it seems you're not a suspect. Blonde is the only description on the wanted poster. You should be safe. His gaze shifted to Venti. Diluc. As for the bard, it'd be better if you stayed in the tavern. Venti. Haha. No problem. I like taverns. Diluc's expression didn't change. Diluc. Okay. Let's meet here tonight after the tavern closes. He left. The waiting. Venti. Okay, got it. Tomorrow night, right. Don't worry, I'll show up. Naofumi. He said tonight. Venti. Did he? I'm sure it's fine. Paimon. You're going to forget, aren't you? Venti. I never forget anything important. He picked up the bottle he'd been eyeing earlier. Venti. The tavern closes at midnight, right? Then I'll have another drink or two. Don't worry, I won't get drunk. Paimon. That's exactly what someone who's going to get drunk would say. Venti. Perceptive. He poured himself a glass. Naofumi walked to the window. The street below was quiet now, the guards had moved on, hunting shadows. Diluc. Don't forget our meeting tomorrow night. Naofumi turned. Diluc stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Naofumi. You said tonight. Diluc. I did. The tavern closes at midnight. My contact will be on time. He glanced at Venti, already half a glass in, and sighed. Diluc. Try to keep him conscious. Naofumi. I'll do my best. Diluc. That's all I ask. He disappeared down the stairs. Paimon. Paimon doesn't trust him. Naofumi. Why not? Paimon. He's too red. Naofumi. His hair. Paimon. Everything. His hair, his clothes, his vibe. Red means danger. Naofumi. Or passion. Paimon. Same thing. Venti raised his glass. Venti. To new friends and old dragons. He drank. Naofumi watched the window. Somewhere out there, a lyre waited in the hands of a stranger. And somewhere else, deeper, colder, a dragon cried. Meanwhile, unknown location. The Electro-Sisson mage placed the holy lyre on a stone altar. Sisson mage, it's done. A figure emerged from the shadows, taller than her, masked, radiating cold. Figure. Good. The Anemo Archon's power will serve the Saritz's will. Sisson Mage, and the Traveler. Figure. Let them chase shadows. Their efforts are meaningless. The figure reached out, fingers brushing the lyre's strings. Figure. Soon, everything will change. Chapter 10. The Weight of Alliances. The tavern after dark. Angel's share was different at night. The lanterns burned low. The crowd had thinned to a few regulars, traders nursing ales, off-duty guards pretending they weren't off-duty. The air smelled of oak and amber and secrets. Naofumi sat in the corner booth, Paimon perched on the table beside him, Venti across from him nursing his third glass. Venti, you're here. Naofumi looked up. Jean stood in the doorway. She wasn't wearing her uniform. No coat, no sword, just a simple green dress and a cloak that hid her face from casual view. She looked younger like this, and older, somehow. Like the weight of command had been set aside, but not forgotten. Jean. Wait, you're. Traveler. Naofumi. Jean. Paimon's head swiveled between them. Paimon. Why is the acting Grand Master here? Diluc emerged from behind the counter, wiping a glass. Diluc. Well, first of all, I contacted more than one person. He set the glass down. Diluc. Secondly, she came here as Jean herself, not as the acting Grand Master. A Jean you would never see, even as an honorary knight. Jean stepped further into the room. Her eyes found Naofumi, held for a moment, then moved to Venti. Jean. What a surprise. She sat down across from them. Jean. I heard about the Holy Lyre. But I never suspected it was you. Naofumi. It wasn't us. Jean. I know. Diluc explained. She folded her hands on the table. Jean. So. The sound of the Holy Lyre can purify Stormterror and return it to normal. Is that true? Venti set down his glass. Venti. That's right. Our honorary knight is putting themselves on the front line to try and resolve this Stormterror issue. He gestured grandly. Venti. Now that's the hotshot of the Knights of Favonius I'm talking about. Paimon. Feels like we're breaking the law, though. Diluc. I understand this kind of absurd explanation is hard to believe. But we can ask the bard to play the song again to try to persuade. Jean. I believe you. Diluc stopped mid-sentence. Diluc. To persuade our stubborn common, wait. What? Quote. Jean. I can't think of any reason for Devalin's betrayal, given it was once one of the four winds. However. She looked down at her hands. Jean. If it was poisoned in the battle over Mondstadt all those years ago, and then corrupted by the Abyss Mage after it woke up, we can't really blame it. She looked up. Jean. But as acting Grand Master, I obviously cannot make such a statement publicly. Diplomatic pressure from the Fatui makes it hard for us to seek a peaceful resolution to the Stormterror issue. People would think I've lost grip on the gravity of the situation. Her jaw tightened. Jean. That's why I can only do this in private. Diluc. HMPH. He crossed his arms. Diluc. That's one of the reasons I don't like the Knights of Favonius. He studied Jean, almost grudgingly. Diluc. What surprises me is that you would believe an outlander so easily. Jean's lips curved, just slightly. Jean. My cautious and meticulous superior, even you trust them. Don't you, sir? Diluc. I already told you not to call me sir. He turned away, but Naofumi caught the faint flush at his ears. Diluc. Never mind. We don't often get to work together after all. Naofumi. Sir. Paimon. Wow. This is really awkward. Jean cleared her throat. Jean. I have a rough idea of where the Holy Lyre der Himmel is. Venti. Under his breath. Nice recovery. She's really talented at changing the subject. The Fatui's design. Jean's expression grew serious. Jean. The conflict between Mondstadt and Snezhnaya stems from the conflict between the seven nations and their respective gods. The cryo gods Fatui seem to be after the Anemo god's power. Venti said nothing. His fingers tapped against his glass, a nervous rhythm he probably didn't notice. Naofumi. So are they going to take over the defense of Mondstadt? Paimon. Or do they want to kill Devalin? Jean. Right. If the Knights of Favonius publicly prevented an attempt on Devalin's head, then. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Jean. The only other way to affect the Anemo god's power is to take the holy lyre. Diluc, the number of Fatui that have come to Mondstadt is far from limited. I've already managed to coerce a few reports out of them. Jean, Diluc has determined that the holy lyre is not being held in the Goth Grand Hotel. I imagine they don't want to leave something stolen in a place where it could be so easily found. Paimon gets it. If too much of a scene gets made, then it becomes a big diplomatic issue. Diluc, HMPH. Such is the diplomacy between the 7 nations. The fire crackled. Shadows danced on the walls. Diluc turned to Naofumi. Diluc, Outlander. Ready to go. Naofumi, let's go. The road to the hideout. They walked through the empty streets, Diluc in front, Jean beside Naofumi, Venti bringing up the rear with Paimon floating at his shoulder. The moon was hidden behind clouds. The wind carried the smell of rain. Venti, Jean just said the Fatui are trying to take Devalin's power for the cryo god. His voice was thoughtful. Venti, I fear this might fall short of their true intentions. Paimon, what do you mean? Venti, I think they intend to use Barbado's connection to the wind to draw him out. Just like Lisa traced the source of the storm to the temples. Diluc, the god of Anemo, hasn't been seen for more than 1,000 years. What makes you think that's their intention? Venti opened his mouth, then closed it. Venti, oh, ah. Diluc, he didn't press, but his eyes narrowed. Diluc, forget it, I don't like having to pry. He reached into his coat and pulled out a bundle of fabric. Diluc, traveler, here. Take this. Paimon, what is it? Diluc, a disguise. To protect your identity. Put it on before you run into the Fatui. He handed it to Naofumi. Diluc, unfortunately, they are still one of Mondstadt's allies. At least, that's the facade we're maintaining. Our actions are going to get them stirred up. Better to not implicate yourself on a personal level. Naofumi unfolded the disguise. A cloak, a hood. Simple, nondescript, the kind of thing that wouldn't be remembered. Naofumi, smart. Diluc, I try. The hideout. The ruins stood at the edge of the city, old stone half swallowed by earth, doorways that led to places maps didn't show. The Fatui had made it their own. Banners of pale blue hung from the walls. Electro crystals hummed in iron sconces. And everywhere, the smell of winter. Paimon. This place gives Paimon the creeps. Jean. Stay close. Stay quiet. They moved through the corridors, past empty guard posts and abandoned chambers, until they found the first guard. He was young, scared. His uniform was too big for him. Fatui guard. No, no. Don't eat me. He blinked. Fatui guard. Ah, you're human. Naofumi, we have come for the holy lyre der Himmel. The guard's face went pale. Fatui guard. How did you guys know the lyre's here? Naofumi, we have come for your life. Fatui guard. No, don't. I have valuable information. I'll tell you. He was shaking. Fatui guard. We hid the holy lyre in the depths of these ruins. The place it's being kept is locked up tight. If you're after the key, keep going further into the ruins. But don't come after me. I don't know which one of the guards has it. But I'm sure you can find them and find out for yourselves. Paimon. This guy looks like he's about to wet himself. Fatui guard. Why, you just worry about yourselves. He pointed a trembling finger. Fatui guard. One of the harbingers is already in Mondstadt. Senora. When she gets her hands on you, she's going to string you up and torture you. When that time comes, don't you dare say a word about me. He fled. Paimon. Did he say Senora? What a strange name. Diluc, number 8 of the 11 harbingers. Goes by the name Senora. His voice was ice. Diluc, the fact the Fatui can run amok across the 7 nations like they do is entirely because of the 11 harbingers. We need to act quickly, before she gets wind of what's going on. The search. They searched room after room. Guards in corners. Guards behind desks. Guards who tried to fight and guards who tried to run and guards who tried to bargain. Greedy guard. Who are you? How'd you get in here? Naofumi, we are goodwill ambassadors from the Snizno Mondstadt Association. Greedy guard. Never heard of that association before. What are you lot doing here? Naofumi, we wish to borrow the holy lyre der Himmel. Greedy guard, that lie's way too obvious. You really haven't got anything better. Naofumi, we are here to do goodwill stuff. Greedy guard, oh, keep talking. You're here for the liar, aren't you? Naofumi, we are investigating you for alleged corruption. Greedy guard, what? How did you little brats creep in here? You take me for a fool. He crossed his arms. Greedy guard, you're here for the liar, aren't you? And just how do you plan to borrow it? Naofumi, how does 500,000 more sound? The guard's eyes went wide. Greedy guard, wow. Greedy guard, wow. Quote, silence. Greedy guard, okay. Sounds like a plan. He handed over a key. Greedy guard, you can head in from the hall outside. But don't tell anyone that it was me who gave you the key. Paimon, that actually worked. Diluc, some people are simpler than others. The last room. They found the final chamber at the end of a long corridor. The doors were iron, sealed, locked, waiting. And standing before them, arms crossed, mask gleaming. Agent, where did you rats scurry out from? He drew his blade. Agent, Senora is not going to tolerate this kind of interference in our affairs. So I'll be the one to take care of you, save her the trouble of having to deal with you herself. The fight was short. The agent was skilled, fast, precise, deadly. But he was alone. And Naofumi was not. Diluc's claymore caught the agent's blade. Jean's sword found an opening. Venti's arrows sang through the air. And when the dust settled, the agent was on his knees, gasping, defeated. Agent, Senora is going to end you. The songs bards sing of your demise will be so terrifying, the people of Mondstadt will never sleep again for the nightmares they give them. He vanished, fled into the shadows like the coward he was. Paimon. Big talk for a guy who still ran off in the end. Chicken. Quote. The liar. Naofumi pushed open the iron doors. The chamber beyond was small, circular, with a domed ceiling painted with stars. And at its center, on a pedestal of black stone, the holy lyre der Himmel. It glowed, soft, green, alive. Paimon. Finally. The lyre is back in safe hands. Naofumi stepped forward, reached out, his fingers touched the strings. And for just a moment, a single, breathless moment, he heard it. The wind. Not the wind outside, not the wind that moved through trees and over mountains. Something deeper, something older. A voice that had been singing for centuries, waiting for someone to listen. Venti, careful. Naofumi pulled his hand back. Venti, it's been a long time since anyone held that lyre. It might be sensitive. Naofumi, it felt warm. Venti, good. That means it remembers. He took the lyre, gently, reverently, and cradled it in his arms. Venti, let's get out of here. The return. They emerged from the ruins into the night air. The clouds had cleared. The stars were bright. Jean pulled off her hood, breathing deep. Jean, I'll take the lyre to the cathedral. It will be safe there. Venti, for now. Jean, for now. She looked at Naofumi, long and searching. Jean, thank you. For believing in Mondstadt. For believing in Dvalin. Naofumi, I haven't done anything yet. Jean, you've done more than you know. She left, the lyre in her arms, the wind at her back. Diluc watched her go. Diluc, she's stronger than she looks. Paimon, she looks pretty strong already. Diluc, exactly. He turned to Naofumi. Diluc, the harbinger, Senora, she won't take this lightly. She'll come for the lyre. And for you. Naofumi, let her. Diluc's eyebrows rose. Diluc, you're either very brave or very stupid. Naofumi, probably both. For the first time that night, Diluc almost smiled. Diluc, get some rest. Tomorrow will be harder. He walked away, into the shadows, toward wherever red-haired men with secrets went. Paimon. Paimon doesn't know about you, traveler, but Paimon is exhausted. Naofumi, then let's go. Paimon. Where? Naofumi, somewhere warm. Somewhere with food. Paimon. Now you're speaking Paimon's language. They walked, back toward the city, back toward the lights, back toward whatever came next. Paimon. Naofumi. Naofumi. Yeah, Paimon. Do you think we can really save Dvalin? Naofumi thought about the dragon. About the grief in Venti's song. About the tears that had turned to crystal. Naofumi. I don't know. Paimon. Oh. Naofumi. But I'm not going to stop trying. Paimon was quiet for a moment. Paimon. That's good enough for Paimon. They walked on. Meanwhile, the Goth Grand Hotel. A woman stood at the window, looking out over the city. Her mask was beautiful, cold porcelain, painted with tears that weren't hers. Her dress was white, like snow. Like death. Senora. They took the lyre. Behind her, the agent knelt, head bowed, shoulders trembling. Agent, forgive me, Lady Senora. The traveler, they were stronger than. Senora, I am not interested in your excuses. She turned. Her eyes were the color of winter. Senora, the traveler, the honorary knight, the one from nowhere. Agent, yes, Senora, interesting. She walked to the window, looked out at the city, at the cathedral, at the stars. Senora, let them have their lyre. Let them play their little song. She smiled. Senora, when the time comes, they will understand their place. Chapter 11, Tears of the Dragon. The tavern, after the heist. The fire crackled in Angel's share hearth, casting warm shadows across the wooden walls. The tavern was empty. Diluc had closed early, citing maintenance to the disappointed regulars. In truth, he wanted privacy. Jean sat at the corner booth, her cloak draped over the back of her chair. Diluc leaned against the bar, arms crossed, watching. Venti stood at the center of the room, holding the holy lyre like a father holding a newborn. Venti, welcome back. He turned the lyre over in his hands, fingers tracing the carvings. Venti, ah, this is the holy lyre. You managed to retrieve it. The pattern of flowing wind carved on the rosewood, and the strings still feel cool to the touch too. His voice softened. Venti, oh, the memories. Jean, what do you think, Venti? Can you summon Divalin? Venti's fingers paused on the strings. Venti, although this lyre is the real thing, I doubt that it's going to work. Paimon. What? Venti, as you can see, the lyre has been through 1,000 years of history. Its anemo power has run dry. In this condition, you couldn't play music fit for even Diluc's tavern with it. Diluc, bards fight to get on the stage of my tavern. Don't make assumptions. Paimon, is that really important right now, Master Diluc? She rounded on Venti. Paimon, and you, did you just say you borrowed the holy lyre to play music for drunkards to hear? Venti, hee. Paimon, what do you mean, hee? Venti, anyway, we won't be able to call Divalin with it. The lyre itself is fine, but the strings. He looked at Naofumi. Venti, you're up, Outlander. Naofumi, are you talking about me? I don't know how to fix instruments. Venti, relax. It's not broken. It's just that the intensity of its anemo power has greatly diminished. He held out his hand. Venti, traveler, do you still have Divalin's teardrop crystal with you? Naofumi reached into his bag. The crystal was still there, warm, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. Venti, great. Try to use it on the holy lyre. Naofumi, let me give it a try. He stepped forward, pressed the crystal against the lyre's body. The reaction was immediate. Light bloomed from the point of contact, soft green, spreading across the instrument like water seeping through sand. The strings hummed, the wood seemed to breathe. And then, silence. The lyre glowed, faintly, gently, alive. Venti, it worked, as expected. Jean, this youthful glow. Paimon, praising yourself. Really, Jean, I was talking about the holy lyre. Paimon, oh. Venti ran his fingers across the strings, and this time, they sang. A single chord, clear and sweet, hanging in the air like a promise. Venti, thanks to Traveler having purified the crystal, the holy lyre won't continue to lose power. He frowned. Venti, that said, its power is far from replenished. It'd be great if we could get more tears. Naofumi, we'll help. Paimon, how can we gather more? Naofumi, right, how do we do that? He paused. Naofumi, how can we make Divalin cry? By hitting him. Venti laughed, but there was no humor in it. Venti, I can surmise that Divalin will already be crying. Suffering alone in some deserted place. Jean, Divalin, Paimon, poor baby. Jean straightened. Jean, this is not something that an honorary knight can accomplish alone. I will mobilize the rest of the knights to assist. She looked at Naofumi. Jean, when you get the teardrop crystal, please let Traveler perform the purification process. Naofumi, leave it to me. Venti, heroes supporting each other and setting out on a journey together. How exciting. He struck a pose. Venti, let me come up with a song for you. Paimon, is that all you're going to do? Just sing. Venti, wouldn't be much of a bard if I didn't, now would I? Paimon crossed her arms, as much as someone who floated could cross their arms. Paimon, HMPH. You're so cheeky. You deserve an ugly nickname. She tapped her chin. Paimon. Oh, Paimon knows. From now on, you'll be known as Tone-Deaf Bard. Venti. That's not very flattering. Paimon. It's not supposed to be. The search begins. The next morning, Naofumi stood at the city gates, looking out at the wilderness beyond. The mission was simple: find more teardrop crystals. Purify them. Restore the liar's power. Summon Divalin. Simple. Except nothing in Teyvat was ever simple. Diluc. This search reminds me of a feud I once had with the Fatui. Naofumi turned. Diluc had appeared beside him, silent, as always. Diluc. 6 months ago, a thief stole treasure from the East Temple of the Four Winds. Paimon. Whoa. What was it? A cup used by Barbados. Diluc. No. Although if such a thing existed, it would be very valuable. He crossed his arms. Diluc. Among all the relics they managed to dig up, one particular object was very rare. It was a vial which contained the Anemo god's breath. Paimon. Relics come in every shape and form, huh? Diluc. Anyone with an eye for fine art would like to add this relic to their collection. Once word got out, the Fatui started trying to seek it out as well. His expression darkened. Diluc. They've made tons of counterfeits. You can find them everywhere. In response, I just bought every one I could find, irrespective of its authenticity. Paimon. How many? Diluc. We're still at it now. I've bought more than 2,000 fakes to date. And the Fatui are yet to find the real one. Paimon. Whoa. You guys are insane. She floated in a small circle, thinking. Paimon. So, it means that the real one must be out there somewhere on the black market, right? Paimon'll give you a discount on them if she finds any, 'cause Paimon's just great like that. Diluc. Sure. You can try to find the real one. I'll take what you find, even if they're fake. He turned to leave. Diluc. Once you're done, find me at the winery. I'll trade you a beer for every 20 you find. Paimon. Paimon doesn't drink beer. Diluc. Then give them to the bard. He walked away. Paimon. Paimon is starting to think everyone in this city is weird. Naofumi. Just now. Paimon. Shut up. The first crystal. They found the first crystal in a chest, half buried in the roots of an ancient tree, hidden behind a waterfall that no one had visited in years. Paimon. Paimon didn't think we'd find Divalin's tears in a place like this. Jean knelt beside the chest, brushing dirt from the lid. Jean. As knights, we are taught to hone our investigative skills. Paimon. Wow. Very impressive. Jean opened the chest. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a crystal, dark, pulsing, wrong. The same wrongness Naofumi had felt in the forest. Naofumi. Another one. Jean. Can you purify it? Naofumi reached out, touched the crystal. The darkness receded. The light returned. Paimon. You're getting good at that. Naofumi. Practice, I guess. He tucked the purified crystal into his bag, next to the first one. They were warm together, like they remembered something. Jean's wisdom. They walked through the forest, Jean in front, Naofumi beside her, Paimon floating between them. The trees were old here. The kind of old that remembered things. The kind of old that didn't forget. Jean. In my experience, the secret to finding what you are looking for is to never look for it in the first place. Paimon. What? Jean. Don't think too much about it. Don't search too hard, and before you know it, what you are looking for will appear right before your very eyes. Paimon. That doesn't sound like it would work. Jean. No, seriously, it does. In fact, it's how I used to find my tortoise whenever he went missing. Paimon. Wait, you had a pet tortoise? Jean. Yes. Why? Something wrong, Paimon. Paimon. No, it's, well, just surprising is all. Jean. Why? Paimon. Paimon can't imagine Jean having a pet tortoise. Surely you find it hard to imagine too, Master Diluc. Diluc. who had been walking silently behind them, didn't look up. Diluc. No, I don't. I had one too when I was a kid. What's so strange about it? Paimon. What? You too. Diluc. His name was Grapes. Paimon. Grapes. Jean. Mine was Cabbage. Paimon. Cabbage. Naofumi hid a smile. Paimon. You're both terrible at naming things. Jean. I thought it was charming. Diluc. It was not. Jean. You named yours Grapes. Diluc. Fair point. Paimon threw her hands in the air. Paimon. Paimon is surrounded by crazy people. The second crystal. They found the second crystal in a cave, guarded by a group of hilichurls who had no idea what they were protecting. The fight was brief. The hilichurls fled. The crystal remained. Naofumi. That's two. Jean. We're making progress. Paimon. How many do we need? Venti. As many as we can find. The bard had appeared from nowhere, sitting on a rock, legs crossed, lyre in his lap. He looked like he'd been there for hours. Paimon. Where did you come from? Venti. The wind brought me. Paimon. That's not an answer. Venti. It's the only one I have. He stood, stretching, yawning, and walked over to examine the crystal in Naofumi's hand. Venti. 3 more. Maybe 4. Then the lyre will have enough power. Naofumi. To summon Divalin. Venti. To reach him. Whether he comes. He shrugged. That's up to him. The third crystal. They found the third crystal at sunset, balanced on a stone altar in the middle of a field, surrounded by windflowers. No guards. No monsters. Just the crystal, waiting. Jean. This feels wrong. Diluc. Agreed. Too easy. Paimon. Maybe it's a trap. Naofumi. Maybe. He walked toward the altar. Venti. Wait. Naofumi stopped. Venti. Let me go first. The bard stepped past him, slowly, carefully, and placed his hand on the crystal. Nothing happened. Venti. It's safe. Naofumi. How do you know? Venti. Because it's mine. He picked up the crystal, and for just a moment, his eyes glowed. Green. Ancient. Terrible. Then the moment passed. Venti. I left this here a long time ago. Before the cataclysm. Before everything. He handed the crystal to Naofumi. Venti. Purify it. Naofumi did. The darkness faded. The light returned. And for the first time, the crystal sang. A note. High and clear. Lonely. Venti. He remembers. Paimon. Who? Venti. Divalin. He turned away, walked toward the setting sun, and didn't look back. Venti. 1 more crystal. Then we're ready. The 4th crystal. They found the 4th crystal at midnight. It was in the hands of a Fatui agent, one who had been ordered to destroy it rather than let it fall into enemy hands. Agent. You shouldn't have come here. Naofumi. Probably not. Agent. The Sarats's will is absolute. Naofumi. I don't care. The agent lunged. The fight was short, brutal, final. When it was over, the agent lay unconscious in the mud, and the crystal lay in Naofumi's palm, dark and pulsing and hungry. He purified it. Light bloomed. The hunger faded. Paimon. That's 4. Jean. Is that enough? Venti. It will have to be. He took the crystals, all of them, and held them against the lyre. One by one, they merged. Melted into the wood. Became part of the instrument. The lyre glowed, brighter than before, steadier. Venti. It's ready. Naofumi. Then let's go. Venti. Not yet. Naofumi. Why not? Venti looked at the sky. At the moon. At the stars that had watched over Teyvat for millennia. Venti. Because he's not ready. And if we call him now, he won't come. He sat down in the grass. Venti. Tomorrow. At dawn. When the wind is calm and the world is quiet. He closed his eyes. Venti. Then we'll try. The night before. They camped in the field, Jean and Diluc on watch, Paimon curled up in a blanket she'd somehow acquired, Naofumi staring at the stars. Venti. Can't sleep. Naofumi turned. The bard sat beside him, quiet, for once. Naofumi. Not really. Venti. Thinking about tomorrow. Naofumi. Thinking about Divalin. Venti was silent for a long moment. Venti. He was beautiful, once. Before the poison. Before the betrayal. Before the world forgot him. He picked at the grass. Venti. I forgot him too. For a while. I had my reasons, but reasons don't matter to a wounded heart. Naofumi. You loved him. Venti, I still do. He looked at Naofumi, really looked. Venti, that's why I can't fail him again. Naofumi, you won't. Venti, how do you know? Naofumi, because you're not alone this time. Venti's lips curved, sad, grateful, ancient. Venti, no, I suppose I'm not. He stood. Venti, get some sleep, Outlander. Tomorrow, we sing. He walked away into the darkness, and for just a moment, Naofumi could have sworn he saw wings. Dawn. The sun rose over Mondstadt, golden, warm, hopeful. Venti stood at the edge of the field, the holy lyre in his hands. Jean and Diluc waited behind him. Paimon floated at Naofumi's shoulder. Venti, ready. Naofumi, ready. Venti's fingers found the strings. And he began to play. Chapter 12, The Gathering Storm. The last tier. The ruins were old, older than Mondstadt, older than the trees that had grown through their walls, older than the wind that whispered through their broken arches. Naofumi stepped carefully over fallen stones, Paimon floating close behind. Jean and Diluc had split off to search other areas. Venti waited at the entrance, lyre in hand, eyes distant. Paimon. Divalin's footprints are all over Mondstadt, but his tears. Much harder to find. Naofumi, keep looking. They found the chest at the heart of the ruins, half buried in rubble, guarded by nothing but time. A luxurious chest, the kind that held something important. Naofumi opened it. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, lay a crystal. Dark, pulsing, hungry. Paimon, sigh. We're done gathering. That was hard. Diluc appeared from the shadows, silent, as always. Diluc, it's too early to relax. We're still not done with Stormterror. He crossed his arms. Diluc, besides, the Fatui could also be planning something. Naofumi picked up the crystal. It was warm, warmer than the others. Like it had been crying recently. He purified it. Light bloomed. The darkness faded. Paimon, one more for the collection. Naofumi, let's get back to the others. The conversation. They walked through the forest, Diluc in front, Naofumi beside him, Paimon floating between. The sun was setting. The shadows were long. Jean, hey, Diluc. I heard that the Fatui have recently proclaimed you, persona non grata. Diluc, HMPH. What an honor. He didn't turn around. Diluc, nobody was ever proclaimed, persona grata, by the Fatui anyway. Paimon, the Fatui, the diplomatic delegation from Snezhnaya. What have they got against Master Diluc? Jean's expression grew serious. Jean, the Fatui are a problem not only for the knights, they also present a real threat to the whole of Mondstadt. And when it comes to threats against Mondstadt, Diluc is. Diluc, that's enough, Jean. His voice was sharp, final. Diluc, you knights are subject to too many restrictions. You can't directly confront this so-called diplomatic scum. Personally, I despise them. He stopped walking, turned to face them. Diluc, if I were to choose between eating a cryo slime alive, or joining the Fatui. His eyes were cold. Diluc, I'd prefer to be crushed to death by a meteorite. Paimon, geez, your wording is so very dramatic. Diluc, I prefer emphatic. He started walking again. Jean caught Naofumi's eye, and for just a moment, he saw something in her expression. Concern, understanding, and a sadness too deep for words. There's a story there, Naofumi thought. And it's not a happy one. The assembly. They met at the field, the same field where they'd camped the night before. Venti was already there, sitting on a rock, tuning the lyre. His fingers moved with a precision that belied his careless demeanor. Paimon. Woohoo. Divalin Protection Squad. Assemble. Venti. Catchy name. Paimon. Paimon thought so. Venti stood, held out his hands. Venti. Let's put our crystals together. Naofumi handed them over, one by one. 4 crystals. 4 tears. 4 pieces of a dragon's grief. Venti held them up to the light. Venti. Oh. His voice softened. Venti. The color of these crystals looks muddy. Quote. He closed his eyes. Venti. Divalin. You're going through so much pain. He opened his eyes, and looked at Naofumi. Venti. Let's start purifying these crystals first. Please, traveler. Naofumi stepped forward, touched each crystal. One by one, the red faded. The green returned. The hunger became peace. Jean. It is hard to believe such a thing is possible, until you've seen it with your own eyes. Diluc, interesting. It's like filtering wine. The process is refreshing. Venti, I think we should have enough tears now. So next we. He held up the lyre. Venti, use the crystal on the holy lyre like last time. Naofumi, let me give it a try. He took the crystals, held them against the lyre's body, and pushed. Light exploded, not the soft glow of before. This was brilliant, a pillar of green energy that shot toward the sky, scattering clouds, waking birds, silencing the wind itself. And when it faded, the lyre was whole. Paimon, it worked. Jean, it seems completely different from before. Venti, the lyre's anemo power seems fully restored. We should be able to use it now. He smiled at Naofumi, warm, grateful, sad. Venti, it's all thanks to you, traveler. The location. Jean, now, where should we summon Stormterror? She folded her arms, thinking. Jean, it must be away from the city, else there will be casualties should we fail. Perhaps here at the winery. Diluc, if the winery was destroyed, it's not something I couldn't eventually fix, but I'd still rather not go through the hassle. Jean, Venti, the wind that blows at sea or in high places should be able to carry a bard's words far away. It's never going to work if the air is too dry or suffocating. Paimon understands. Sea or high places, right. She tapped her chin. Paimon, then the best location to play the lyre would be. Naofumi, a cliff. Paimon, near the sea. Venti, in the sky. You could play the lyre as you're gliding through the air. Jean, even Amber would never think of doing such a thing. Diluc, if you go east from Starfell Lake, there are mountains south of the beach. Paimon, oh, you mean that beach where you were snoring away and Paimon had to wake you? Diluc ignored her. Diluc, if you head to where the cliff juts out, that place is known as Starsnatch Cliff. He looked at Venti. Diluc, what do you think, Bard? Meets the requirements. Venti closed his eyes. The wind swirled around him, listening, considering. Venti, let me think. Starsnatch Cliff. He opened his eyes. Venti, alright, let's do it there. Jean, very well. Then let's meet at Starsnatch Cliff when we are ready. She looked at each of them, her gaze lingering on Naofumi. Jean, please don't be late. Paimon, hee. Yes, ma'am. Jean, sorry. I didn't mean to. She trailed off, suddenly self-conscious. Diluc, you're fine. We'll see you there. He turned and walked away, toward the winery, toward whatever preparations he needed to make. Paimon, Master Diluc is so mysterious. Venti, mysterious people usually have mysterious reasons. Paimon, that's not helpful. Venti, it's not meant to be. The calm before, they dispersed. Jean to the Knight's headquarters, to file reports, to make excuses, to prepare for a mission that didn't officially exist. Diluc to the winery, to sharpen his blade and stare at the sky and think about things he didn't talk about. Venti to the cathedral, to stand before the statue of Barbados and pray to himself. And Naofumi. Naofumi sat on a bench in the plaza, watching the sun set, listening to the city breathe. Paimon, are you okay? Naofumi, I don't know. Paimon, that's honest. Naofumi, trying something new. Paimon floated in front of him, her expression softer than usual. Paimon is scared. A little. Naofumi, me too. Paimon, but we're doing it anyway. Naofumi, that's what being a hero is, isn't it? Being scared and doing it anyway. Paimon thought being a hero was about getting treasure and fame. Naofumi, that's what the stories say. Paimon, what do you say? Naofumi was quiet for a long moment. Naofumi, I say it's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. He looked at the cathedral, at the statue of Barbados, glowing in the fading light. Naofumi, even if those people are dragons. Starsnatch Cliff, dawn. The cliff jutted out over the sea, a finger of stone pointing toward the horizon. The wind was strong here, constant, alive. Venti stood at the edge, the holy lyre in his hands. The wind played with his cape, his hair, the strings of the instrument. Jean waited behind him, sword ready, eyes sharp. Diluc leaned against a boulder, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Paimon floated at Naofumi's shoulder. Jean, is everyone ready? Venti, as ready as I'll ever be. He looked back, at Naofumi, at Paimon, at Jean and Diluc. Venti, thank you. For believing in him. For believing in me. Quote. Diluc, don't get sappy. Just play. Venti smiled. Venti, yes, sir. He turned to face the sea. Raised the lyre. And began to play. The song. The first note was soft, tentative, like a question. Then the second. The third. The melody unfolded, not the song from before, not the lament of a grieving bard. Something new. Something hopeful. The wind answered. It swirled around them, faster, stronger, louder. The sea churned. The clouds parted. And in the distance, a shape. Dark, massive, familiar. Paimon. He's coming. Jean. Everyone, brace yourselves. Divalin descended. His wings blotted out the sun. His eyes, once blue, once gentle, burned with corrupted light. The venom pulsed beneath his scales, black and wrong. But he came. He came. Venti. Divalin. The dragon landed on the cliff, so close that Naofumi could feel the heat of his breath, see the cracks in his scales, hear the pain in every ragged breath. Divalin. Barbados. His voice was thunder. Broken thunder. Divalin. You called. Venti. I called. He stepped forward, lyre still playing, music still flowing. Venti. I should have called sooner. I'm sorry. Divalin. Sorry does not heal poison. Venti. No. But this might. He raised the lyre higher. The music changed, became something older, something deeper. Power radiated from the instrument, green and golden ancient. Divalin recoiled. Divalin. What are you doing? Venti. Saving you. Whether you want it or not. The light spread, touching Divalin's scales, seeping into the cracks, burning away the corruption. The dragon screamed. The interruption. And then, the scream stopped. Not because the purification was complete. Because something else had arrived. A figure stepped out of the air, tall, pale, masked. The world seemed to grow colder in her presence. Senora. How touching. Venti's music faltered. Senora. A god begging for his pet dragon's forgiveness. I wonder, will the people of Mondstadt still sing your praises when they learn the truth? Jean. Senora. Diluc. Get back. He moved in front of Venti, claymore raised. Senora. Master Diluc. Still playing the hero, I see. How quaint. Quote. Her eyes found Naofumi. Senora. And the Outlander. The one from nowhere. The honorary knight. Quote. She smiled. Senora. You've been quite the inconvenience. Naofumi. I try. Senora. Try harder. She raised her hand, and the world went white. Chapter 13. The 11th Hour. The cliff's edge. Starsnatch Cliff stood against the dawn like a sentinel who had forgotten how to sleep. The wind roared here, constant, wild, free. Seagulls wheeled below, tiny specks against the churning sea. And above, the sky stretched infinite, unbroken, waiting. Everyone had gathered. Diluc stood at the cliff's edge, his claymore planted in the stone beside him. Jean waited a few paces back, sword sheathed, but her hand resting on the hilt. Venti held the holy lyre, its strings humming faintly in the breeze. Paimon floated at Naofumi's shoulder, uncharacteristically quiet. Diluc. Everyone is finally here. Paimon. What a view. Venti. Lovely for a fated reunion, isn't it? He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Venti. Well, we must be prepared for a fight. Jean. Regardless of the outcome, things finally seem to be taking a turn for the better. She looked out at the sea, at the horizon, at the future. Jean. Mondstadt has really been going through so much recently. Diluc. In the end, the solution to our problem was as simple as a traveler and a song. He glanced at Naofumi, grudging, almost. Diluc. I suppose the Knights of Favonius may have played a part in it too. Venti. Oh, we get it, Master Diluc. Everyone, please step aside. He raised the lyre. Venti. I, the best wandering bard of the mortal world, shall begin my performance with the holy lyre. The summoning. The first note was soft, almost shy, like a child testing a parent's attention. Then the second, the third. The melody unfolded, not a lament, not a plea, but something older. Something that had been waiting for this moment since before Teyvat had names. The wind answered. It swirled around them, faster, stronger, alive. The sea churned. The clouds parted in a spiral, revealing sky that seemed to breathe. And in the distance, a shape. Dark. Massive. Coming. Paimon. He's coming. Jean. Everyone, stay sharp. Divalin descended. His wings eclipsed the sun. His eyes, once blue, once gentle, burned with corrupted amber light. The venom pulsed beneath his scales, black and wrong, like oil seeping through cracks in stone. But he came. He came. The dragon landed on the cliff, so close that Naofumi could feel the heat radiating from his chest, could see the individual cracks in his scales, could hear the pain in every ragged breath. Divalin, you have come. His voice was thunder. Broken thunder. Divalin, what has been done, cannot be undone. Venti stepped forward, lyre still playing, music still flowing. Venti, if so, then why do I see sadness in your eyes? The melody shifted, became gentler, softer, like a lullaby. Venti, sadness that speaks of your yearning for this song. Divalin's eyes flickered. For just a moment, a single, breathless moment, the amber faded. Blue peeked through. Divalin, Jean, they are communicating. Huh. The interruption. The arrow of ice came from nowhere. It struck Venti in the shoulder, not deep, but precise. The lyre's music stuttered, faltered, died. Paimon. No. Tone-deaf barred. Venti staggered. Naofumi caught him before he fell. From behind Divalin's wing, a figure emerged. Small. Hooded. Wrong. Its mask was bone white, its eyes empty voids. And in its hands, a staff that pulsed with abyssal energy. Cryo Abyss Mage, do not be fooled by him, dear dragon. Its voice was a whisper and a shriek, both at once. Cryo Abyss Mage, he left you to rot alone. Now he attempts to deceive you once more. Divalin, Barbados. Cryo Abyss Mage, let your wrath fester. Mondstadt has already turned its back on you. Divalin's eyes burned, amber flaring, blue drowning. Divalin, you. He turned on Venti, rage and hurt and betrayal twisting his features. Divalin, you were planning this all along. To have me slain by them. Venti, it's not like that. Cryo Abyss Mage, the time has come for the dragon to serve its true master. It raised its staff. Shadows gathered, thick, hungry, alive. Cryo Abyss Mage, while you bewail your pathetic selves, and watch the world tremble with fear. Divalin roared, and launched into the sky, wings beating, storms gathering around him. Venti, Divalin. The dragon didn't look back. The Abyss Mage laughed, a sound like breaking glass, and vanished into shadow. And then, silence. The aftermath. Jean. Barbot, Venti, please, be careful. Venti touched his shoulder. The wound was already closing, not healing, closing. Like the skin remembered how to be whole. Venti. Hee. You've known my true identity for some time now, haven't you, Jean? Jean. Venti. Though, I thank you for continuing to use the name Venti. Diluc. How's the holy lyre? He knelt beside the instrument, which had fallen to the ground, its strings slack, its wood cracked. Diluc. Can it still be played? Or does it need to be repaired? Venti picked up the lyre. Turned it over in his hands. Venti. Wow. He sighed. Venti. Unfortunately, I think it's beyond repair. Naofumi, we can't let this Abyss Mage get away. Diluc. You're right. If we don't fight the evil at its source, then we can't save Divalin at all. Naofumi, Divalin is in a lot of danger. Diluc. No, we should make that Abyss Mage pay first. He stood, claymore in hand. Diluc. If we don't fight the evil at its source, we can't save Divalin at all. Jean. In which case, I shall call upon Outrider Amber to track it down. Diluc. No need. Jean. Why is that? Diluc. I eradicated one not long ago, in one of the Four Winds temples. Paimon. What? When? Diluc. If you want to track those monsters down, I'll seek answers from my contacts. I've got other means for getting the job done. Paimon. Diluc. She watched him walk toward the cliff's edge, toward the wind, toward whatever came next. Paimon. Though he dislikes the Knights of Favonius, he protects Mondstadt in his own way. Venti. Ooh. Why does our little Paimon sound so doting all of a sudden? Paimon. Paimon is not doting. Paimon is observing. Diluc. HMPH. He turned, face half in shadow, eyes burning. Diluc. Wait for my word. I'll be sure to let the Abyss Order know that their blatant disregard for Mondstadt will not go unpunished. He walked away. Paimon. Dramatic exit. Venti. He's good at those. The other side. Far from Mondstadt, beyond the storms, beyond the mountains, beyond the reach of wind, the throne of ruins waited. The traveler's sibling stood at its summit, watching the sky. Two Abyss mages knelt behind them, heads bowed, staffs planted. The Cryo Abyss mage appeared, materializing from shadow, still laughing. Cryo Abyss mage, Your Highness. Your humble servant returns. The sibling didn't turn. Cryo Abyss mage, when your homeland returns to this world, we shall revel in its glory. Above them, Dvalin circled. Trapped, bound, angry. The sibling watched. And said nothing. The new lead. Days passed. The city healed, slowly, quietly. The knights repaired walls. Merchants reopened stalls. Children played in the plaza, pretending to be dragons and heroes. But Naofumi didn't rest. He trained. He waited. He watched the sky. And then, word came. Diluc. The Abyss Order. Enemies of the human race. Even the underground networks rarely come across any information on them. They had gathered in Angel's Share, the same corner booth, the same fire crackling, the same tension thick in the air. Diluc. With that said, it was a bit of a hassle, but I managed to dig up a few clues. Venti. Really? That quickly? You really are well connected, Master Diluc. Paimon. Come to think of it, Mr. Big Anemo God Barbados, why exactly do you need the help of mere humans? Venti leaned back in his chair. Venti. How do I put this? The Seven, as people now know them, were once known as the Seven Archons. Each Archon presides over their own part of Teyvat. That is the role the Archons play. He swirled his drink, though Naofumi had never seen him actually drink it. Venti. Only in performing this duty can we attain power. But I don't like the idea of ruling Mondstadt, and I don't feel Mondstadt would really like it either. Jean. Go forth and establish a city of freedom without rule. We have not forgotten Barbados' wish for Mondstadt. Paimon. Jean. You're such a devotee. She squinted at Venti. Paimon. Maybe someone got a little too free and is just too lazy to care. Venti. However it may have come to be. I haven't been back to Mondstadt for an extended period of time. He set down his glass. Venti. Without a doubt, I am now the weakest Archon among the Seven. Naofumi. And yet you sound almost proud. Venti. Is that bad? Naofumi. Guess that's why you're the god of the City of Freedom. Venti. You flatter me. Diluc. Oh, such a humble god. Is it a blessing, or a curse? He leaned forward. Diluc. But we digress. Let's get back to the topic at hand, the common enemy of all mankind. His expression darkened. Diluc. We have tracked the Abyss Mage to the vicinity of the winery. Jean. I cannot stress enough how important it is to not let it escape. Naofumi. Let's hunt it down. The hunt. They found the Abyss Mage in a clearing, surrounded by hilichurls, by shadows, by wrongness. The battle was short, brutal, final. When the last hilichurl fell and the Abyss Mage dissolved into shadow, something remained. Energy. Dark, pulsing, tangled. Venti. What's this? He knelt beside the fading light. Venti. After the Abyss Mage was defeated, a certain energy dispersed from its body. It seems that energy was being used to cut off the connection between me and Dvalin. He was quiet for a moment. Venti. He looked at Naofumi. Venti. Traveler, do you know of Stormterror's lair? Naofumi. Nope. Venti. But Jean and Master Diluc are no doubt aware of it. Jean. It's an ancient ruin. Cursed. Forgotten. Diluc. Even the birds don't fly there. Venti. After Dvalin woke up, he took those ruins as his lair. As it was with the storms that previously cut Mondstadt off from the outside world, the entrance is sealed by a special barrier. He stood. Venti. But now, as the energy dispersed from the Abyss Mage, I was able to read the rhythmic flow of how the barrier's magic was woven. I must admit, it sounds even more horrendous than a chorus of hilichurls, but... He smiled. Venti. It should be enough to let us break through the storm barrier and reach Stormterror's lair. Diluc. Which means we're going to confront Dvalin. He glanced at Jean. Diluc. I'm fine with that. Jean is the one who wishes to avoid any direct confrontation. Jean. No. Her voice was steady. Steel. Jean, when there are no other options left, it is my responsibility to alter our course of action. If slaying him is our only choice, I will gladly become the knight that leads the charge. Venti, fortunately, we have yet to need to go that far. Diluc, Jean, by that, you mean. Venti, I mean that the Holy Lyre is not our trump card. He looked at Naofumi. Venti, our real trump card. Traveler. Quote. Paimon, Traveler. Naofumi, is it because I purified the teardrop crystal? Venti, agreed. Naofumi, is it because I can fight? Venti, well, you could say that. You're definitely a force to be reckoned with. He leaned forward. Venti, but you have a much more precious forte. The impurities in the tears, and the curse that binds Divalin, they belong to the same maleficent power. His eyes met Naofumi's. Venti, which means, Paimon, you tone-deaf bard, don't you see how crazy this is? You've seen what Divalin is like when he's ticked off. Traveler will be swallowed whole before they even get to lift a finger. Naofumi, weren't we just talking about how I can fight? He stood. Naofumi, this battle, it's going to take everything everyone's got. Diluc, hey, he almost smiled. Diluc, nice plan, worth a shot. Jean, I am with you, honorary knight. Paimon, ho, so we just need to fight monsters from the abyss, and a dragon. No pressure or anything. Diluc, humans aren't without their strengths. Let's go. Venti, and so, he raised his glass, empty, but he raised it anyway. Venti, the epic actions of brave heroes finally lead to this 11th hour. The night before, they parted ways, to prepare, to pray, to say goodbye to the people they might not see again. Naofumi walked through the empty streets of Mondstadt. The moon was full, the wind was calm. Paimon, are you scared? Naofumi, terrified. Paimon too. She floated beside him, small, brave, terrified. Paimon, but we're doing it anyway. Naofumi, that's what heroes do. Paimon thought heroes weren't supposed to be scared. Naofumi, then Paimon thought wrong. They walked in silence. And above them, the stars watched. Waiting. Stormterror's lair, dawn. The barrier screamed when they touched it. Wind, not the gentle wind of Mondstadt, but something twisted, something angry, pushed against them, clawed at them, tried to tear them apart. But Venti's music held. The barrier broke. And beyond. Stormterror's lair. Ruins that predated memory. Shadows that moved on their own. And at the center, a tower. Broken. Waiting. Diluc, he's here. Jean, I can feel him. Venti, then let's not keep him waiting. They walked forward. Into the storm. Into the lair. Into the mouth of the dragon. Chapter 14, The Lair of Storms. The barrier's edge. Stormterror's lair loomed against the sky like a wound in the world. The ruins stretched for miles, broken towers, shattered walls, the skeletons of buildings that had once reached toward heaven. Above it all, a spiral of clouds churned, lit from within by flashes of purple lightning. The wind here was different, not free, like Mondstadt's, but trapped. Angry. Hungry. Paimon, it's a storm barrier. It looks so dangerous. Venti, let me at it. He stepped forward, the broken lyre in his hands. Venti, although this wooden lyre is all I have, I don't need the lyre to break through this kind of storm barrier. He stopped. Venti, wait. What is that? From the shadows of the ruins, movement. Shapes. Yellow eyes and wooden shields and the guttural chanting of a language that was never meant to be spoken. Hilichurls. Dozens of them. Jean. Enemy attack. Prepare yourselves. Venti, the stage will need to be cleared before I can begin my performance. Generally speaking, such chores are not the concerns of the performer himself. Paimon, get over yourself and fight. The first wave. The Hilichurls charged. Naofumi drew his blade, the familiar weight in his hands, the familiar rhythm of combat. Beside him, Jean moved like water, sword flashing, each strike precise and economical. Diluc was a storm of fire and steel, his claymore carving through shields like paper. And Venti played. His music wasn't for them. It was for the wind. Arrows of green energy shot from his lyre, each one finding its mark with impossible accuracy. The Hilichurls fell, but more came. Jean, wait, what's going on? Something's not right. She cut down immediately, the blade sinking deep into its wooden shield, and stepped back, breathing hard. Jean, there shouldn't be any hilichurl camps in the vicinity of Stormterror's lair. Venti, the hilichurls usually do not venture into areas with high elemental concentrations. It puts a heavy burden on their bodies. Diluc, the Abyss Order must be manipulating them behind the scenes. He dispatched the last hilichurl with a single, brutal swing. Diluc, yet they shouldn't have been able to determine that we would come. They're presumably spreading their forces to halt our plans. Venti, without further ado. He raised the lyre. Venti, I suppose I can play faster if my only audience is the wind. His fingers moved, not the gentle melody of before, but something sharper. Something piercing. The notes cut through the storm like knives, and the barrier. The barrier cracked. Paimon, it actually opened. You're not entirely useless, tone-deaf bard. Jean, this is it. We are now entering Stormterror's lair. She stepped through the gap in the barrier, into the shadow of the ruins. Jean, watch yourselves. Let's move. The path in. The ruins swallowed them. The walls were close here, too close, carved with symbols that predated the Archons. The wind whistled through broken windows, carrying whispers that might have been words. Paimon, looks like this is the front gate to Stormterror's lair. She floated up, then up some more, staring at the massive stone doors. Paimon, the gate is enormous compared to us. But still, Paimon wonders how Dvalin gets in there with a body that huge. Venti, he doesn't walk in. He flies in. Paimon, oh, you do have a point. They reached the entrance. The doors were sealed, not locked, but stuck. Centuries of wind and rain had fused them to the earth. Paimon, it's stuck. Venti, it's stuck. Paimon, hey, check out that roof. Is there a giant hole in it? Venti, I suppose we could make use of that wind current. Paimon, let's make a detour then. Heading up. Venti, let's make a detour then. Heading up. The ascent. They climbed, over rubble, through broken archways, past the skeletons of creatures Naofumi couldn't name. Paimon, do you think there will be abyss mages hiding in the ruins? She glanced at Diluc. Paimon, either way, if we do run into one, we will let the victorious Master Diluc do the. Diluc, do not underestimate them just because I have beaten one of them before. His voice was sharp. Diluc, I'm not boasting. I'm simply saying there is more to the Abyss Order than a few mages. Venti, correct. That's why I tagged along, after all. He smiled, that same distant smile. Venti, well, that, and also for your safety. Ah, why am I so diligent? Too diligent for a poet, in fact. Paimon, so says the person that made zero effort to search for the dragon tears and drank in the tavern all day. She crossed her arms. Paimon doesn't get it. What part of you is remotely diligent? Venti, the charming part. Paimon, that's not a part. They reached the wind current, a column of green energy rising from a crack in the earth, spiraling toward the sky. Paimon, look, a wind current. It might lead us to the top of the tower. Naofumi, everyone ready? Jean nodded. Diluc grunted. Venti smiled. They stepped into the current, and rose. The summit. The top of the tower was a plateau of stone, surrounded by the wreckage of a civilization that had died before Mondstadt was born. And ahead, a door. Not stone, not wood, light, pulsing, shimmering, alive. Venti, oh, we can't advance any further. The ruins seem to be guarded by ancient seals. Paimon, is this the work of Dvalin? Venti, no. These ruins were once part of an ancient city. Dvalin just happens to be nesting here for now. His voice grew quiet. Venti, these ruins even predate the existence of the Four Winds. Mondstadt is a city without a ruler. However, before it was. He paused. Venti, it was ruled over by a tyrant. Paimon, a tyrant. Venti, anyway, I'll sing you that story when we have a chance in the future. Diluc, the markings on this seal. He stepped forward, examining the carvings. Diluc, if my archaeological knowledge is not mistaken, this appears to be a light actuator. If we retrieve and reintegrate all the parts, we should be able to get it working. Jean, we should be close to completing the ceremony for this actuator. She pointed to a gap in the mechanism. Jean, let's put the last part back and see. The actuators. They found the first actuator in a chamber below, half buried in rubble, guarded by hilichurls who didn't stand a chance. Paimon. Wow. This light actuating ceremony does work magic. She pointed up. Paimon. It looks like one of the 3 halos above has now become solid ground. Let's start looking for the next puzzle. The second actuator was deeper, in a cavern beneath the ruins, surrounded by water and shadow. The fight was harder. The enemies were stronger. But they pushed through. Paimon. It seems 2 of the halos have become solid ground. 1 more and the seals at the top of the tower will be broken. The third actuator was at the heart of the lair, guarded by an abyss mage that didn't bother hiding. Cryo Abyss Mage, you should not have come here. Naofumi, probably not. Cryo Abyss Mage, the dragon will not thank you for this. Naofumi, I don't need thanks. The battle was brutal. The Abyss Mage summoned ice and shadow, cracked the floor, froze the air. But in the end, it fell. And the third halo became solid ground. Paimon. It's done. She floated higher, staring at the platform that had formed above them. Paimon. It looks like that place leads deeper inside. The calm before. They stood at the edge of the platform, looking up. Above them, the storm churned. Below them, the ruins waited. And somewhere in between, Dvalin. Jean. Any last words of wisdom, Barbados? Venti. Don't die. Jean. That's it. Venti. That's the most important one. Diluc checked his blade. Jean tightened her gloves. Paimon floated closer to Naofumi. Paimon. Paimon is scared. Naofumi. Me too. Paimon. But we're doing it anyway. Naofumi. We're doing it anyway. He looked at the path ahead, the path that led to the dragon, to the truth, to whatever came next. Naofumi. Let's go. They walked forward. Into the storm. Into the lair. Into the mouth of the dragon. Meanwhile, the heart of the lair. Dvalin stirred. He could feel them, the intruders, the heroes, the ones who thought they could save him. They couldn't. No one could. The venom burned in his veins. The whispers filled his mind. The Abyss Mage's words echoed in the spaces where his own thoughts used to live. He left you to rot alone. Mondstadt has turned its back on you. They want you dead. Dvalin roared, and the storm answered. Let them come. Let them try. He would show them what happened to those who dared to hope. Chapter 15. The Winds of Freedom. Mondstadt Arc Finale. The final confrontation. The sky above Stormterror's lair was the color of bruises. Naofumi stood on a crumbling platform, the wind tearing at his clothes, his blade in his hand. Around him, Jean, Diluc, Venti, Paimon. Below them, ruins that had stood for thousands of years. And above them, Dvalin. The dragon circled like a wounded storm, his wings beating against the air, his roar shaking the stones. The corruption pulsed beneath his scales, black and purple, wrong. Venti. Look, there are 2 shiny spots on Dvalin's back. He pointed, and Naofumi saw them. Clots of darkness, throbbing like infected wounds. Venti. They appear to be poisonous blood clots that have coagulated on his wounds. The Abyss Order must have cursed them. That's what's corrupting Dvalin's mind. Naofumi. How do we stop it? Venti. To save Dvalin, we're going to have to get rid of those blood clots. Aim for them. Dvalin dove. The battle began. Phase 1, the skies. The dragon was faster than he looked. Naofumi dodged, felt the wind of Dvalin's passing ruffle his hair, and struck. His blade glanced off the dragon's scales, leaving no mark. Too tough. Need to hit the weak points. Venti. Aim for the blood clots. Dvalin wheeled around, and opened his mouth. Light gathered, not the gentle green of Anemo, but something corrupted. Something hungry. Jean. Brace yourselves. The blast hit the platform. Stone cracked. Naofumi stumbled, caught himself, and ran. He leapt. For a moment, a single, breathless moment, he was airborne. The wind caught him, held him, carried him. And his blade found its mark. The first blood clot burst. Dvalin screamed, not in rage, but in pain. And for just a moment, his eyes flickered. Blue, not amber. Venti. 1 down. 1 to go. Dvalin retreated, climbing higher, faster, trying to escape. Venti. Dvalin is getting away, but I am familiar with his tactics. Just hold on a bit longer. The bard raised his lyre, broken, but still singing. Venti. I'll extract and condense the pure anemo from the shots being fired. Shattering them will create acceleration currents. Orbs of green light appeared, floating, pulsing, waiting. Venti. I can't control where they will appear, so keep your eyes peeled. Shatter the condensed anemo orbs to create acceleration currents. I know it's hard to tell amidst the barrage of bullets, but this is the only way. Naofumi understood. He ran, from platform to platform, shattering orbs, riding currents, climbing toward the sky. And when he reached the peak, he struck. The second blood clot burst. Divalin's roar shook the heavens. Venti. Divalin. I'm sorry this is hurting you. Hang on, just one more. Phase 2, equal ground. The world shifted. The platforms rearranged themselves, forming a circle, an arena, a stage. Divalin landed in the center, not flying, not fleeing, but fighting. Venti. Now we can fight Divalin on equal grounds. The grandest bard is here to help. He struck a pose. Venti. But first, let me be clear. Even after hundreds of years without use, Divalin's teeth and claws are still very dangerous. Paimon. That's not reassuring. Divalin charged. The battle was chaos, teeth and claws and fire and wind. Jean struck from the left, Diluc from the right. Venti's arrows sang through the air. And Naofumi. Naofumi was everywhere. He dodged. He struck. He climbed Divalin's neck and held on while the dragon thrashed and roared. Venti. Now is our chance. Aim for the tainted blood clot on his neck. Naofumi saw it, pulsing, black, wrong. He raised his blade. And plunged. Light exploded. The final blow. Divalin screamed, and the corruption cracked. Cracks spread across the darkness, fractures of green light, of freedom, of something that had been buried for too long. And then, the darkness shattered. Divalin's eyes cleared. Blue. Gentle. Divalin. Divalin. Barbados. Venti. I'm here. The dragon slumped, exhausted, wounded, but free. Paimon. Did we do it? Jean. I think. The platform crumbled. Paimon. This place is gonna collapse. They fell, tumbling toward the ruins below, toward the stones that would crush them. And Divalin moved. His body curved beneath them, catching them, holding them, carrying them. His wings spread wide, catching the wind. Paimon. We're flying. Venti. It's been a while since we flew like this together, huh, Divalin? Divalin. Just now. Why? Why did you not ask me to protect you like the last time? Venti. Me not wanting you to listen to the Abyss Order doesn't mean that you have to listen to me. He smiled, soft, sad, free. Venti. Freedom, if demanded of you by an Archon, is really no freedom at all. Divalin. Is this the power of the Anemo Archon? But I am no longer part of the Four Winds. Venti. Even if that's so, you still protected us regardless. He placed his hand on Divalin's neck. Venti. Now, spread your wings of freedom and go with my blessing. Divalin roared, not in pain, but in joy, and soared toward Mondstadt. The aftermath. The city welcomed them not as conquerors, but as heroes. The next day, Jean stood at her desk, papers piled high, but her shoulders lighter than they'd been in months. Jean. And so, the Stormterror threat was quelled. I clarified the misunderstanding to the citizens of Mondstadt and let them know that they are safe. In the plaza, children played, pretending to be dragons and knights. At the tavern, Diluc served drinks, his expression unchanged, but his eyes softer. On the cliff, Venti played his lyre, for the wind, for the birds, for no one at all. Jean. To them, it seems Stormterror attacked Mondstadt out of nowhere and then vanished just as quickly. They must be finding the whole ordeal very confusing. Venti. However, winds change their course. Someday, they will blow towards a brighter future. The camera pulled back, showing the city, the cathedral, the fields beyond. And then, one day later, the city of freedom. Amber. You guys are back. The honorary knight returns triumphant. Naofumi stood at the city gates, Paimon at his shoulder. Amber bounded toward them, her ponytail bouncing, her smile bright. Paimon. Yup. Travelers back from tussling with Divalin. Amber. You just returned yesterday, right? Jean got back first, and she told us all about your heroic deeds. She sighed, dramatic, wistful. Amber. Sigh. I wonder if I'll ever get an opportunity like that. Naofumi. All thanks to your referral. Amber. That doesn't come into it. You guys deserve all the credit for how you resolved this crisis. When I brought you into the city that day, I was just doing my duty as an outrider. Naofumi, trust me, it's not an opportunity you'd want too often. Amber, you're right, actually. Peace is hard-won, and we shouldn't take it for granted. She smiled, softer now. Amber, and this time, you're the one we should all be grateful to. Paimon, you're welcome. But, have you been waiting for us here this whole time? Amber, of course not. Just because I'm not out on the front line doesn't mean I don't have work to do. In fact, I'm dealing with the aftermath of the crisis as we speak. Paimon, aftermath. Here, what happened in Mondstadt? Amber, while Master Jean was away, the monsters lurking nearby made a coordinated attack on the city. Her expression darkened. Amber, fortunately, we weren't completely taken by surprise. I detected the Hilichurls were moving closer to the city a while back. Paimon, oh yeah, Paimon remembers. When we first met, you were clearing out one of their camps. Amber, exactly. And if we hadn't started making preparations back then, Mondstadt would be in much greater danger by now. Naofumi, glad you held them off. Amber, me too. But I have a strange feeling that we're not out of the woods yet. Hilichurls aren't usually capable of coordinating like this. Naofumi, why would the Hilichurls do this? Amber, our best guess is that the Abyss Order is behind it. Paimon, they've taken over the Hilichurls. Good thing we saved Devalin, or they might have taken him, too. Amber, that's right. And since I'm the outrider, it's up to me to keep eyes on the Abyss Order from now on. She shook her head, forcing a smile. Amber, I'm sorry. You should be celebrating your victory, not listening to all this somber talk. She brightened. Amber, I promised to take you out for some sticky honey roast, didn't I? Before everyone got caught up in the Stormterror crisis. There's no time like the present, right? You guys hungry? Paimon, you bet. You may have forgotten till just now, but it's been on Paimon's mind this whole time. Amber, awesome, let's go. It's been way too long since I last ate a sticky honey roast myself. She pointed toward the city. Amber, wait for me at Good Hunter. I'll be right there, I just have to clean up here real quick. Good Hunter, the meal. Sarah stood behind the counter, apron tied, smile ready. Sarah, greetings, may I take your order? Kea, why so cold? I've always thought that we enjoy quite the intimate friendship. Naofumi turned. Kea leaned against the counter, eye patch gleaming, smile sharp. Naofumi, oh hey, I didn't see you there. Kea, ha ha ha, it seems your great battle sharpened not only your combat skills but your wit as well. A knight after my own heart. Naofumi, the handsome Mr. Kea. Kea, so you do feel something for me. And people say my charm is fake. He spread his arms. Kea, to bask in the presence of Mondstadt's new big hero is quite the morale boost. And that's coming from a knight. Paimon, sweet-talking sugar-coated Captain Kea. Kea, haha, nonsense. I speak from the heart. Naofumi, what are you doing here? Kea, just looking for a quiet spot to collect my thoughts. Paimon, while all the other knights are working hard to clean up after the battle. Kea, thinking can be an arduous task, you know. Believe me, I'd much rather be taking out the trash. Naofumi, what are you plotting this time? Kea, me, nothing. On the contrary, I'm trying to work out what others are plotting. His smile faded, just slightly. Kea, that's why I'm here, somewhere quiet, where I can collect my thoughts. Paimon, so, what you thinking about, then? Kea, the Abyss Order. He leaned closer, voice dropping. Kea, a dragon wreaks havoc in Mondstadt, and the acting Grand Master leaves the city to combat the threat. Strategically, that's the perfect moment for the Abyss Order to make their move. If you were the Abyss Order, would you squander this golden opportunity by sending in nothing more than a few Hilichurls? Naofumi, you're right, it doesn't add up. Paimon, there must be more to this story. Kea, to get to the bottom of it, I decided to wait. So I waited, and watched for their next move. He paused. Kea, then came the day you made all hell break loose in Stormterror's lair, just as the Hilichurls' cries sounded from the city gates. That same day, I saw shadowy figures lurking in the city itself. Quote, Paimon. Inside the city. Kea. Well, all the other knights were outside, fighting the enemy. As you can imagine, that left the inside of the city completely unguarded. He smiled, thin, cold. Kea. Except for me, of course. And so I approached the Abyss Order infiltrators for a bit of, let's call it fraternizing. Through various means, I managed to gather some rather interesting intel. Kea. The situation is this, the Abyss Order, they are united under a single leader. Paimon. The Abyss Order has a leader. Kea. Yes. And it was this very leader who devised the plot to turn Dvalin into a weapon of war. Paimon. What exactly did you have to do to find this out? Kea. Let's just say I'm blessed with certain linguistic powers. Quote. He leaned back. Kea. There's more. The Abyss Order has a name for this leader. They call her, the Princess. Naofumi's blood went cold. The Princess. Kea. Now, I'm sorry to cut this intelligence briefing short, but I do believe I spy Amber heading this way. I think she's still angry with me for my absence from the defense effort during the attack. I'd better slip away before she notices me. He vanished. Amber. 1 minute I see Kea, the next he's slipped away. Clear sign of a guilty conscience. Naofumi. He does a lot behind the scenes. Amber. Are you sure? Because that sounds like exactly what he'd say to talk himself out of trouble. Naofumi. I know. What a scoundrel. Amber. I agree. He sets a terrible example for someone who's cavalry captain. She shook her head, then smiled. Amber. But let's forget about him. I worked super hard today and my tummy's rumbling. Let's order. She waved at Sarah. Amber. Hi Sarah. 1 sticky honey roast, please. The meal. They ate. They laughed. They didn't talk about the Abyss Order or the Fatui or the war that was coming. For one meal, they were just friends. Amber. So, now the Stormterror threat is behind us, what are your plans for the next step? Paimon. Paimon thinks it's time to leave Mondstadt, and keep looking through the 7 nations until we find clues about Traveler's sibling. Amber. Huh, really? Oh, well, I guess this is goodbye for now. Naofumi. I will miss Mondstadt. I will miss my Favonian family. Amber. Hey, don't feel down. You'll always be a friend of the Knights of Favonius and our honorary knight. Wherever you may go, and wherever the wind may blow. Naofumi. Let the wind lead. I'll come back and visit. Amber. That's the spirit. Remember, Mondstadt will always welcome you. She pointed at the food. Amber. Alright, now let's eat before it gets cold. The cathedral. Barbara. May the Anemo Archon protect you. Naofumi stood before the deaconess, her eyes wide, her hands clasped. Barbara. I'm not really in a position to speak compared to our acting Grand Master. But I still want to thank you all on behalf of all of Mondstadt for your assistance. Fortunately, everything was resolved peacefully. I can't imagine how an all-out war between the military and the dragon would have ended. Jean. Now the Fatui have no choice but to keep their mouths shut. They must be annoyed that things didn't turn out as planned for them. She crossed her arms. Jean. This time, they even lost their best excuse to pressure the Knights of Favonius. Diplomatically speaking, they gained nothing, and on the contrary simply proved just how vexatious they can be. Barbara. Sounds like quite the story. So, did you bring the Holy Lyre with you? Naofumi hesitated. Barbara. We cannot ask you to keep defending the lyre forever. The Seneschal has been pressing me for a while now. Paimon. We did bring it with us. It's a little. Barbara. Oh, don't worry. I'm not here to collect rent. The church has always received special funding. Naofumi handed her the lyre. The wood was cracked. The strings were broken. The instrument that had once held the power of Anemo was now ruined. Barbara. Paimon. Venti. Wow. Barbara. Triple A Arg. The Holy Lyre. She clutched it to her chest, tears in her eyes. Barbara. Oh, Lord Barbados. Even if I atoned for these sins for the rest of my life, it would still not be enough. Venti. Sigh. Oh, give it here. He took the lyre. His hands glowed, green, gentle, divine. The wood mended. The strings reattached. The instrument, broken, ruined, dead, sang again. Barbara. How could this, the Holy Lyre? But how? Paimon. Let Paimon see. Barbara. No. No. I don't know how you managed to fix it, but you'll never touch the lyre again. She stormed off, the lyre clutched to her chest, her footsteps echoing. Venti. We really should get going. He rubbed the back of his neck. Venti. That trick I used to repair the holy lyre. I mean the magic I used. It isn't going to hold forever, you know. Paimon. What? She zoomed toward him. Paimon. You, tone-deaf bard. Hey, don't go. Venti ran. They chased him out of the cathedral, into the square, into the wind. And into her. The ambush. The world went cold. Ice crawled across the ground, freezing the stones, freezing the air, freezing time. Two figures emerged from the shadows, masked, cloaked, deadly. Fatui pyro agents. And between them, a woman. She was tall, pale, beautiful in the way that winter was beautiful, cold, unforgiving, eternal. Her mask was porcelain, painted with tears that weren't hers. Her dress was white, like snow. Like death. Senora. At last, Mondstadt's rodent ruler in the flesh. Her voice was silk over steel. Senora. Scurrying through the streets, looking for leftovers. Mondstadt calls this a god. Venti. Resident rodent, beats invasive vermin. She moved. Her hand struck his cheek, a slap that echoed across the square. Senora. Don't you dare speak back to me, insolent bard. Venti's eyes flashed. The wind rose, pushing back the ice, pushing back the cold. But not enough. Senora. Absentee archon of Mondstadt. How impotent you have become. Venti. That smirk you wear looks out of place. Did you steal it from your master's face? Senora. Should have held your tongue. She reached into his chest, through his chest, and pulled. Light. Green. Screaming. A chess piece. A Gnosis. Senora. So. This is a Gnosis. Wouldn't be caught dead wearing this ugly thing in public. Venti. Beauty is a waste, when the beholder has no taste. Naofumi. Venti. Senora. Well, we have what we came here for. Come. Before our dear Favonian friends arrive. She turned, her heels clicking against the ice. Senora. Leave nothing for them to find. The world went dark. Waking. Barbara. Honorary knight, you're awake. Naofumi's eyes opened. The cathedral ceiling. The smell of incense. The sound of prayers. Naofumi. Venti, is he alright? Barbara. I wouldn't say he's alright, exactly. I found you lying unconscious outside the cathedral, and used my elemental powers to heal you. Naofumi. What planet are we on? Barbara. Planet. Paimon. Don't listen to his nonsense, Miss Barbara. Barbara. Okay, well basically, I found you lying outside the cathedral, unconscious, and used my elemental powers to heal you. Paimon. Paimon thinks you could still use a final splash of ice-cold water to the face. Barbara. That bard awakened first, but strangely, my healing powers had almost no effect on him. This is the first time I've encountered such a patient. But he just said, it's completely normal, and then got up and left the cathedral. Paimon. He left. Already. Where'd he go? Barbara. The symbol of Mondstadt's hero, that's what he said. I wanted to stop him, but Master Jean, said to let him leave. How strange. Naofumi. I think I understand. Paimon. Paimon remembers Venti healing under that tree before. Windrise. The great tree stood against the sky, its branches wide, its leaves shimmering. Venti sat beneath it, his back against the trunk, his eyes closed. Venti. The wind amongst the branches is good. I love the way it smells. He opened his eyes. Venti. Haha. I said the exact same thing the last time. Sigh. Why do I only say these things when I'm down on my luck? Naofumi. So, what is a Gnosis? Venti was quiet for a long moment. Venti. So you noticed. He sighed. Venti. This isn't something I'm meant to discuss with ordinary people. But I suppose I can let you in on the secret. He gestured to the tree, to the wind, to the sky. Venti. As you know, visions are external magical foci that only a small minority of people possess. They use these visions to channel elemental power. In truth, every wielder of a vision is one who can attain godhood and ascend to Celestia. We call such people allogenes. Quote. Paimon. Allogenes. Paimon's never heard of them before. Venti. Hee hee, that's because this is a secret that only Archons are privy to. We don't need primitive tools like visions. Instead, each Archon has an internal magical focus that resonates directly with Celestia itself, known as a Gnosis. Quote. Naofumi, what about the thing hanging off your hip? Venti. He. It's just a glowing glass ball I carry around to avoid suspicion. Naofumi. Huh, I feel cheated, but I guess I'm used to that by now. Paimon. So who was that nasty woman who sent Paimon flying and stole your Gnosis? Venti. Her name is Senora. Number 8 of the Harbingers. She and the rest of the Harbingers have been given god-like executive authority by the Tsaritsa of Snezhnaya, and with it, strength surpassing that of other mortals. Paimon. The Tsaritsa of Snezhnaya. Isn't that? Venti. Indeed. She is one of the 7, the Tsaritsa who reigns from the Zapalyarny Palace, and the one person that the Fatui Harbingers all answer to. His voice darkened. Venti. The 7 don't always get along well, but still, I never thought that she would plot to steal another Archon's Gnosis. Naofumi. What sort of god is the Tsaritsa? Venti. Ah, how should I put this? He looked at the sky. Venti. 500 years ago, I knew her well. But I can't say the same is true now. You see, a certain catastrophe happened 500 years ago, and after that, she cut off all ties with me. He stood, brushing leaves from his clothes. Venti. But we can save discussion of the Cryo Archon and the Fatui for another day. Traveler, if you seek the rest of the 7, many difficulties lie ahead of you still. He pointed east, toward the mountains, toward the future. Venti. You should head for Mondstadt's neighboring nation of Liu. The Geo Archon who reigns there, unlike me, administrates his entire region personally. He only descends once every year to give his divine predictions, which set the direction for Liu for the rest of that year. Paimon. Even so, it sounds like he works much harder than a certain someone. Venti. He grinned. Venti. In any case, this year's rite of dissension is soon to begin. If you miss it, you'll just have to wait another year. Paimon. What? Why didn't you tell us before? Well then bye. Traveler, we're going. Venti. One moment, Windborn Outlander. Naofumi. You mean me? Venti. Yup. Naofumi. Sorry for borrowing the statue's anemo power without asking. Venti. Haha, just use it gratefully, or, better yet, treat me to a glass of dandelion wine. He grew serious. Venti. Traveler, as you set off on your journey once again, you must remember that the journey itself has meaning. The birds of Teyvat, the songs and the cities, the Tsaritsa, her Fatui and the monsters, they are all part of your journey. He placed his hand on Naofumi's shoulder. Venti. The destination is not everything. So before you reach the end, keep your eyes open. Use the chance to take in the world around you. Naofumi. Venti. I understand. Venti. Great. So that's that for the Anemo Archon's admonishments. Back to Venti time. He grinned, and for a moment, he was just a bard again. Just a friend. Venti. If you want to chat, now's the time. A bard stays not always in a single climb. The road to Liu. They stood at the city gates, Naofumi, Paimon, and the wind at their backs. Behind them, Mondstadt, the city of freedom, the city that had become home. Ahead, Liu, the mountains, the contracts, the unknown. Paimon, are you ready? Naofumi, no. Paimon, good. Neither is Paimon. She floated ahead, small, brave, terrified. Paimon, let's go anyway. Naofumi smiled, and they walked, into the wind, into the future, into the next chapter of their story. Epilogue, the cathedral rooftop. Venti sat on the edge of the cathedral, his legs dangling over the city, his lyre in his hands. He didn't play. He just watched. Venti, you're leaving. Dvalin circled above, his wings catching the light, his scales gleaming. Dvalin, I am needed elsewhere. The Abyss Order grows bold. The corruption spreads. Venti, I know. Dvalin, you could come with me. Venti, I could. He looked at the city he'd built, the city he'd left, the city that had learned to live without him. Venti, but they need me here. Even if they don't know it. Dvalin was silent for a moment. Dvalin, the Outlander, the one from nowhere. Venti, Naofumi. Dvalin, Naofumi. There is something different about them. Venti, there is. Dvalin, will they be enough? Venti thought about the road ahead, the Fatui, the Abyss Order, the truth that was still hidden. Venti, I don't know. He smiled, soft, sad, hopeful. Venti, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Divalin spread his wings. Divalin, then may the wind be at your back, old friend. Venti, and may freedom be in your heart. Divalin leapt, soaring into the sky, toward the mountains, toward the future. Venti watched until he was nothing but a speck against the clouds. Then he picked up his lyre. And began to play. And this is the end of this amazing epic crossover What If movie. Hope you guys